As the supreme demon lord of this world, he is gravely wounded and on the brink of death, with only 3 days left to live. Not only is he currently being besieged by tens of thousands of experts from the righteous faction, but even his 9 most loyal disciples, whom he had painstakingly nurtured. Before we continue the recap, don't forget to like and subscribe to Che's Manhwa. Your support helps me bring you more fast and exciting recaps. Are plotting to betray him and annihilate his sect. The eldest disciple, Yuzong Hai, after departing the sect, established the Netherworld sect, proclaiming it the foremost demonic sect. The second disciple, Yezong Grong, has become a notorious sword demon, whose name alone sends shivers down the spine of all who hear it. He relishes in bloodshed, readily slaughtering at the slightest provocation. The sixth disciple, Yitiangsin, is the adored princess of the Inyu Palace, revered by numerous female cultivators. Known as the Fairy Shura, the seventh disciple, Suya, controls an intelligence network that spans the entire world. He once sparked a devastating war through his tactics of discord, leading to countless casualties. The eighth disciple, Zhu Hong Hong, ascended to the title of Evil King in a matter of years after leaving the sect. The ninth disciple, Suyaner, was the last to join, still clinging to some semblance of conscience. Lu Zhou slowly opened his eyes, and fragmented images flooded his mind. In his past life, he had been a high-ranking executive, but now, he had transmigrated into the body of the demon Lord Ji Tiandao. Through the memories of his new identity, he learned that a month ago, the top 10 experts of the righteous path had set a trap surrounding Ji Tiandao. The demon lord had fought them alone, resulting in a stalemate and severe injuries. Now, the righteous path experts were at his doorstep, preparing to launch a decisive assault on his stronghold. Unfortunately, he had lived for nearly 1,000 years, close to the natural limit of a cultivator's lifespan. As he aged, his power to instill fear had significantly waned. 5 of his 9 disciples had already betrayed him, greatly undermining his authority. Lu Zhou couldn't help but smile bitterly as he pondered his predicament. His body was terribly weak, and just as he tried to rise, he collapsed back down. The disciples outside the pavilion, seeing their master in such a state, rushed to his side. The fourth disciple, Ming Shirin, reported that it wouldn't be long before the righteous experts broke through their defensive barriers. The third disciple, Duan Musheng, frowned and suggested seeking help from the eldest senior brother. Given their bond as master and disciple, he felt it would be wrong to abandon him. The fifth disciple, Zhao Yu, also proposed reaching out to the seventh junior disciple, given his cunning. However, Lu Zhou interrupted, reminding them that the barrier of Jingting Mountain was still strong enough to hold off the enemy for a while. Although he was deeply anxious, he forced himself to stay calm, scolding them for even considering such options. He couldn't reveal the truth of his scattered cultivation. If he did, these 4 disciples would likely turn on him before the righteous path could strike the final blow. "Disperse now," he commanded. "I have my own plans to handle the enemy." The 4 disciples, sensing their master's authority, left immediately. Finally, Lu Zhou let out a long, relieved sigh. He had no real plan to deal with the enemy. He simply craved some peace and quiet amidst the chaos. With these 4 ungrateful disciples at his side, and the army of righteous cultivators outside, along with his own frail body, despair threatened to overwhelm him. Just as he was cursing his fate, he suddenly heard the system's voice. "Host has completed the task. Mission to pass on teachings and inheritances successfully concluded after 1,000 years. Merit system now activated." At this, Lu Zhou's heart skipped a beat. He immediately understood why Ji Tiandao had invested so much in training 9 disciples. What a tragic irony was spending a lifetime building a legacy, only for others to reap the benefits. The system's prompt continued. Main quest, retreat from the enemy detected. Host's current weakness identified. Rewarding with a newbie gift package. Would you like to open it? Lu Zhou, feeling a spark of hope, agreed. He received a reversal card, which could restore a portion of his vitality. He also obtained 3 peak state cards, each capable of granting him 30 minutes of Ji Tiandao's peak strength, and 5 fatal block cards, which passively blocked 5 fatal strikes. Without wasting time, Lu Zhou took out the reversal card and focused his mind. In an instant, the vitality from the surrounding trees and vegetation surged into his body, replenishing his strength. At that moment, the third disciple, witnessing the overwhelming energy, exclaimed, "Such immense power! Master surely has even greater abilities we've never seen." Little Nine, observing the energy fluctuations, looked bewildered. How could I possibly know? His former self is beyond comprehension. Meanwhile, the voice of a righteous cultivator rang out from beyond the barrier. "Come out and face your death, those inside." It was Zhou Jifang, a senior disciple from the Heavenly Sword sect. Rumor had it that he had recently stepped into the Divine Court realm, though still in its infancy. Even in a one-on-one fight, he would hardly be a worthy opponent for my little martial sister. Unfortunately, strength in numbers is on their side. While these individuals are not much of a threat, the 10 great experts are the real trouble. But if we speak of rebellion, who can stop the 4 of us if we wish to escape? Upon hearing this, Ciu Honor became visibly frustrated. "Senior martial brothers and sisters, have you never thought of standing with our master?" Xiao Yu replied dismissively, "Little martial sister, you joined too late, and there are many things you don't understand." Meanwhile, Lu Zhou had been quietly studying the system for some time. After using the reversal card, he felt vitality surge through him. His remaining lifespan was extended to 313 days, but to him, this was still insufficient. He needed to restore his youth. This aging body was far too uncomfortable. After a moment of contemplation, he slowly stood and walked out of the pavilion. A deep rumble echoed as Jingting Mountain trembled. The 4 disciples instantly appeared before him, surprised to see Lu Zhou standing tall. Duan Musheng, standing beside them, spoke up. "Master, your disciples request a battle. We'll undoubtedly wipe them out without leaving a trace." Lu Zhou's gaze sharpened at his words. Duan Musheng involuntarily flinched under that gaze and lowered his head. "I already have a plan to retreat from the enemy. Come with me outside to face them together." With that, Lu Zhou strode toward the edge of the formation. At this moment, Jingting Mountain had gathered thousands of righteous cultivators preparing to launch their attack on the defensive formation. The leaders of these righteous individuals called out, "You are surrounded. Come out and meet your doom." Their provocative words echoed through the air. Lu Zhou stopped just before the barrier, watching the cultivators outside with a calm, collected demeanor. The 4 disciples, including Ming Shirin, felt a sudden jolt in their hearts upon witnessing this scene. "Why isn't he moving forward?" Ming Shirin muttered. From the sky, Luo Changfeng, the leader of the Heavenly Sword sect, laughed heartily. "It's been a month, but it seems the old devil ancestor has become younger." Lu Zhou forcefully suppressed his emotions and replied coldly, "Luo Changfeng, you've got some nerve. Stop pretending and surrender now. The righteous sects of this world will leave you with a complete corpse." Below them, Zhou Jifang shouted, "You 4 must be this old man's disciples, right? I'll give you the chance to repent and join the righteous path." "Help us! The righteous path! Kill him!" Ming Shirin sneered and glanced disdainfully at him. "Enough with the nonsense. Master, your disciples request a battle. I can't wait any longer to strip the skin off this arrogant brat." Lu Zhou raised his hand, signaling them to stop. "No need. How could the esteemed righteous sect grant you a one-on-one duel?" Seeing they remained unmoved, Luo Changfeng, still in the sky, continued his taunts. "Who doesn't know the 9 evildoers of Jingting Mountain have committed countless atrocities? You all deserve to be punished. Today, the righteous experts of the world join forces to crusade against you. It's your own fault. You evildoers can only blame yourselves." Lu Zhou's voice turned stern as he retorted, "Whether you call it righteous or evil, I have my own judgments. Even if my disciples make mistakes, I punish them personally. It's not for you to meddle with or point fingers." Luo Changfeng erupted into laughter. "Old fool. You have quite a sense of humor. 30,000 cultivators died in Rongbei. Wasn't that Xu Ye's doing? Since you admit it, then it's clear. Your teachings lacks the laziness of the master. Do you have anything else to say?" At this point, Lu Zhou's gaze burned with intensity as he answered, Those who are not of our kin do not share the same motives. The people of the western regions are not our kin, and neither are those from Rongbai. To hell with your pity and mercy for these foreign regions." Luo Changfeng's face flushed red with anger, his words lost in fury. He no longer argued, his voice dripping with contempt. "Old devil, let's see how long you can keep pretending. Take this!" Upon hearing this, Lu Zhou stepped confidently out of the barrier. "Very well, let me witness your skills." His disciples, standing behind him, secretly rejoiced at the opportunity to let these righteous cultivators test their master's hidden trump cards. Luo Changfeng then blinked, and in the blink of an eye, the swords around his body multiplied and began spinning in mid-air. They finally converged into a massive sword. Though Lu Zhou appeared calm on the surface, internally, he was anxious. His eyes kept darting to the item cards on his panel, and he could sense the growing suspicion among these four evildoers. Triggering side quest, people's hearts are revealed by their actions. Let the evildoers show their true colors. At that moment, the power of Luo Changfeng's giant sword was fully formed, and with a loud shout, he pointed it toward Lu Zhou's group. "Face your death," he yelled. Duan Musheng and Zhao Yu's faces darkened. They both knew that the old man must not die here. If he did, the techniques and weapons they relied on would disappear with him. Just as the giant sword was about to strike, the two of them, having made up their minds, simultaneously attacked the sword. The gust created by their strikes deflected the sword's edge, causing it to hit the barrier instead. Lu Zhou, embarrassed, immediately turned and rushed back into the barrier, his pride wounded. Seeing this, countless cultivators burst into laughter. Luo Changfeng, hovering above, taunted, "So this is your skill? Truly impressive." The leader of the Xinyi sect joined in, sneering. The patriarch of villains actually needs his disciples to protect him. How remarkable. Lu Zhou, unperturbed by their mockery, paid them no mind. Instead, he focused on the peak experience card once more. "Combining 3 peak experience cards gives me an hour and a half." In other words, once he used them, the battle needed to be over quickly. But before dealing with the external enemy, he had to handle the internal issues. If these evildoers didn't fall in line, once his time ran out, he would be back to square one. His voice, despite himself, grew louder. "Duan Musheng, how dare you? Who gave you permission to interfere with my affairs?" Duan Musheng's face changed at his words. He quickly approached and knelt, expressing deep concern for his master's safety. At this moment, Ming Shirin chuckled lightly. "Master, there's no need for this. You've acted tirelessly. This should be enough. Brother, please, get up." Upon hearing her words, Duan Musheng's respectful expression faded. Slowly, he stood, his demeanor shifting. The evildoers had already guessed, based on Lu Zhou's earlier embarrassed display, that he was barely holding on. "Master, give up," Ming Shirin said, a hint of malice in her voice. "As long as you pass on the techniques and weapons to us intact, we will do our best to help you escape today." Lu Zhou remained silent, his gaze unreadable. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "Little Nine, what about you?" "Master, your disciple dares not," Xianer said, immediately dropping to his knees with a loud thud. Secondary quest completed. Reward, True Eye of Reality. Effect, permanent. The prompt caught Lu Zhou off guard, and a special message flashed before him. Xianer's loyalty, 60% and increasing. Ming Shirin's loyalty, 15%. Duan Musheng's loyalty, 23%. Zhao Yu's loyalty, 35%. If loyalty falls below 0, they will defect and become enemies. If it exceeds 80, they are unlikely to defect. Lu Zhou noticed the steadily decreasing loyalty of the 3 evildoers, but the rising loyalty of Su Yaner came as a surprise. His thoughts turned inward. Intentionally, Lu Zhou spoke. "Since that's the case, there's no need for me to keep pretending. Indeed, I have been injured. But that doesn't mean you can defy me." With those words, he crushed the peak experience card in his hand. In an instant, a powerful surge of energy erupted from him, knocking the 3 disciples back. Blood sprayed from their mouths as they were sent flying. Only Suyana remained, wide-eyed, unable to comprehend the scene unfolding before him. It felt as if the entire world had frozen in place. The moment the other 3 hit the ground, they scrambled to roll and kneel, shouting in unison, "We know our mistakes, Master." Lu Zhou didn't even glance at them. He took a deep breath and muttered to himself, The feeling of being in peak state is truly wonderful. In that moment, everything around him felt like it was within his grasp. The cultivators before him were insignificant ants. One flick of his finger, and he could crush them all. Energy surged from him, soaring into the sky as the barrier around Jingting Mountain shattered entirely. The top 10 righteous experts watched, dumbstruck, their eyes filled with disbelief. Wasn't he injured? How could he possibly unleash such a powerful surge of energy? The cultivators who had mocked him earlier couldn't stop their legs from trembling. The 3 evildoers, realizing their mistake, fell to the ground in a panic, quickly kneeling and shouting in unison. Admitting their wrongdoing, the 3 disciples knelt before Lu Zhou, their heads bowed in submission. Lu Zhou coldly stared at them. "Disobeying your master," he thought. Such behavior warrants severe punishment. With a swift motion, golden light erupted from his fingertips. A loud crash echoed as the 3 disciples were sent hurtling into a distant mountain peak. "I'll deal with you later," Lu Zhou muttered, observing the timer on his panel. 29 minutes remaining. Teaching these 3 evildoers a lesson was merely a moment's work. Soon, he would be facing the thousands of cultivators and the top 10 righteous experts. "Let me see how much progress you've made in the past month," he mused as his voice echoed across the battlefield. With a deep breath, Lu Zhou gathered his strength and soared into the air. 100 tribulations of the underworld Dharma body. With a thunderous shout, a golden halo surrounded his manifested Dharma body. Below, the 8-leaf golden lotus spun, releasing powerful gusts of energy with each rotation. Seeing this, Luo Changfeng immediately signaled other experts to converge and block it together. Within moments, the 10 interconnected Dharma bodies formed a massive wall in the center of the battlefield. The area within 100 miles was illuminated by their combined radiance. Cultivators scrambled to retreat, seeking shelter behind the towering Dharma bodies. However, some weaker individuals were caught off guard and suffered heavy injuries due to their delayed retreat. Lu Zhou, watching this unfold, snorted coldly. "You like using swords," he thought. "Then I'll use a sword too." "Imperfect heaven's favor," he declared, and in a flash, a dazzling long sword formed between his index and middle fingers. Duan Musheng, still lying on the ground, instinctively raised his head. A shiver ran down his spine as he recognized the technique. This was the Heavenly Oneness technique, one of the most powerful moves in existence. For years he had been practicing swordsmanship, striving to master this technique, but Ji Tiandao had always withheld the final form from him. Never in his wildest dreams did he imagine encountering it in this situation. In that moment, the 3 disciples realized how gravely they had misjudged their master. Not only could he effortlessly manifest the Dharma body, but he was also capable of wielding the imperfect heaven's favor. Even more terrifying was the fact that the power of the imperfect heaven's favor was amplified under the influence of the Dharma body. Luo Changfeng, realizing the gravity of the situation, quickly ordered the experts to retreat. If they didn't, all 10 would suffer severe injuries. He had never expected that this old devil would be stronger than ever. Lu Zhou hovered in front of the Dharma body, as if they had merged into one. With his sword raised, he unleashed a powerful sword light, slashing down upon the crowd. Weak cultivators who couldn't dodge in time were cleaved in half. A deafening rumble echoed as mountains, rivers, and lakes were split apart by the force of the sword wave. The top 10 righteous experts, already prepared, had moved aside long before the attack. They had believed that, although the old demon could use the Dharma body to contend with 10 opponents, he couldn't possibly unleash other formidable techniques. But now, Lu Zhou was unleashing his ultimate move, and his expression was relaxed. Too relaxed. A deep sense of dread settled within the righteous experts. Despite the overwhelming power before them, Lu Zhou remained calm, as if he were toying with them. He was effortlessly executing his most powerful moves, his body constantly replenishing itself, thanks to the peak experience card. Every time he expended energy, his strength returned to its peak. The imperfect heaven's favor had claimed the lives of hundreds, and the remaining cultivators, whether weak or strong, were scattered in panic. Lu Zhou didn't pursue them. His focus was on the top 10 righteous experts. "You want to run?" he called, his voice cold. "Unfortunately, you're too slow." Before the words had fully left his mouth, he disappeared in an instant, his figure flashing like lightning. In mid-air, only the afterimage of his movement remained. The evildoers, witnessing this, were left dumbfounded. This is the divine technique Blink, they realized. Blink allows one to travel to a distant location at lightning speed, an excellent method for both pursuit and escape. But it consumes an immense amount of vitality. "It's over," third junior brother, Suanor whispered. "We should escape quickly. Master keeps using these powerful moves one after another. I never expected him to be able to wield such an ultimate move. Clearly, he's hiding even greater strength. Why did he deceive us like this?" "Senior brother, senior sister," Suanor urged, his voice desperate. "Listen to me. Stay here. Master possesses a divine technique. We won't be able to escape." The three evildoers were struck with despair as they realized the truth of Suanor's words. Meanwhile, Luo Changfeng, riding the wind, swiftly maneuvered through the forest, looking back from time to time. He saw no one pursuing him. Letting out a relieved sigh, he thought he had escaped, but at that moment, a chilling sensation crept up his spine, followed by a familiar voice. "I've been waiting for you for quite a while." Luo Changfeng froze and turned around, only to see Lu Zhou standing calmly behind him. "How is it that you've only arrived now?" Lu Zhou chuckled softly as he took in the other man's disheveled state. "What happened to that arrogant demeanor you had earlier?" Cold sweat instantly drenched Luo Changfeng's back, misery flooding his heart as he thought bitterly that the old monster wasn't chasing anyone else but him. Forcing himself to remain composed, he suppressed his fear and said hoarsely, "You've already used up so much of your power. If you continue like this, you'll only exhaust yourself." Yet before his words could settle, Lu Zhou once again manifested his Dharma body. "I only know one ultimate move," he said indifferently. And with a single thought, the colossal Dharma body expanded, blotting out the sky as it pressed down with overwhelming force. In the cultivation world, only a handful could comprehend the 100 tribulations Dharma, and those who could cultivate it to the level of the 8-leaf golden lotus were rarer still. Under that terrifying pressure, Luo Changfeng had no power to resist, coughing up blood as his internal organs were shattered and fear consumed him completely. What kind of monster used ultimate moves endlessly? A thunderous boom echoed as the earth trembled, and the massive Dharma body, carried by raging winds, crashed down like a divine mountain. When the dust settled, Luo Changfeng was gone, reduced to ashes without leaving even a trace. After eliminating the formidable enemy, Lu Zhou glanced at the remaining time and saw that only a few minutes were left. There was no time to pursue the others, for he still had to deal with those scoundrels. And once the effect of the peak experience card ended, the consequences would be disastrous. With the preliminary objective complete, the next mission appeared clearly in his mind. Punish the three evildoers and raise disciple Suanor's loyalty above 80%. And without delay, Lu Zhou activated his divine movement technique and returned swiftly to Jingting Mountain. The moment his feet touched the ground, the peak experience state faded, the overwhelming power within his body dissipating like a receding tide and leaving behind a faint sense of loss. This kind of power was truly intoxicating, and he wondered how long it would take to reach such a realm through his own cultivation, resolving to remain cautious and not let anyone see through him. He slowly approached the three evildoers, who were kneeling on the ground and trembling uncontrollably, as their loyalty values recovered slightly but remained far from satisfactory, then ignored them and turned his gaze to his youngest disciple. "I'm tired," he said calmly. "Help me back." Little Nine immediately responded with joy, hurrying over to support his master as they left, while behind them Duan Musheng complained bitterly to Old Four that he had caused endless trouble, only to be met with a frustrated retort about miscalculation and certainty of the master's injury, prompting Duan Musheng to scoff that perhaps the master had simply grown tired of old tricks, and that escape was impossible after witnessing such terrifying power. Meanwhile, inside the mountain pavilion, Lu Zhou calmly took a sip of tea and said, "You know you were wrong," causing Little Nine to immediately kneel and beg forgiveness, only for Lu Zhou to clarify that he was referring to the theft of ancient cultivation manuals from 2 major sects at the end of last year. When questioned, Suanor admitted his mistake and explained that 4th senior brother had claimed only those who made it onto the sinister list were worthy disciples, prompting him to act. At the mention of the sinister list, Lu Zhou's expression shifted slightly, for there was no trace of it in his memories, and Suanor, hurriedly explained that it was a ranking of cultivators who had committed countless evils, with Lu Zhou ranked first, and the senior brothers and sisters all within the top 30, leaving Lu Zhou speechless before he finally sighed and told Yuan'er to rise, declaring that he was the disciple he cherished most and forbidding him from committing further evil deeds. Overjoyed, Yuan'er leapt up and moved behind Lu Zhou to massage his shoulders, while soon after Lu Zhou summoned the remaining 3 evildoers, their loyalty values rising slightly yet remaining dangerously low, such that even the slightest change, they would revert just like grass clinging to a wall, bending with the wind. The 5th disciple, Zhao Yu, was the first to break down and beg for mercy, claiming it was merely a moment of confusion and pleading for the master's forgiveness. Seeing her take the lead, Duan Musheng and Ming Shirin quickly followed, emphasizing that they had served the sect for 100 years, and that even without merit, their diligence alone should earn them mercy. Lu Zhou stood with his hands behind his back, not even sparing them a glance, and after a long silence finally asked about their rankings on the sinister list. Duan Musheng ranked 18th, Ming Shirin 25th, and Zhao Yu 28th, prompting Lu Zhou to sneer inwardly at what a fine group of disciples they were, shamelessly tarnishing his reputation, which made the 3 tremble and hastily admit their mistakes. Abruptly changing the subject, Lu Zhou asked whether, now that they knew they were wrong, they were willing to change and never commit evil again. Though they didn't truly understand his meaning, they still answered obediently in unison. Stroking his beard, Lu Zhou sighed and admitted that he too had erred, teaching them cultivation but never teaching them how to be good people, and that it was his failure that had produced such rebellious evildoers. Turning to Old Four, he declared that since the barrier of Jingting Mountain had been broken, his punishment would be to repair it without taking a single step away, a task that might take 8 to 10 years. Though arduous, it was far better than death, and both disciples eagerly accepted. As for Zhao Yu, Lu Zhou decreed that her punishment would be to leave the mountain and atone for her sins. She knelt silently, daring not to argue, though she didn't even know which sins she was meant to atone for. Lu Zhou then asked them what they believed to be good and evil. Yuan'er answered that benefiting others was good and harming others evil. Old Four claimed doing good deeds and accumulating virtue was good while killing and arson were evil. And another added that serving the country and the people was good while assisting in cruelty was evil. Yet Lu Zhou shook his head, finding their answers hollow and hypocritical, before solemnly declaring that while perfection might be unattainable, one must at least have a clear conscience. This left the 4 utterly confused, recalling how only a month earlier their master had said anyone who displeased him should be killed without hesitation, misunderstanding completely. Zhao Yu eagerly vowed they would kill anyone who insulted him, twisting Lu Zhou's beard with rage as he felt like he was speaking to a brick wall, though he knew changing their mindset would take time. In the end, he ordered Zhao Yu to stay and help repair the barrier as well, promising that their past deeds would not be pursued but warning that any future transgression would be punished severely, while also declaring that since they had entered Jingting Mountain as his disciples, he would protect them. Overwhelmed, the 4 expressed heartfelt gratitude as their loyalty surged noticeably. Satisfied with this balance of authority and mercy, Lu Zhou dismissed them, and once their figures vanished, he finally exhaled in relief and opened the system panel, which displayed a reward of 200 merit points for completing the task. Points that could be used for lottery draws at 50% per draw or exchanged in the marketplace for items, weapons, and techniques, even powerful Dharma bodies, though the prices were absurdly high, with the cheapest beginner Dharma body costing 300 points. Left with no choice, he tried the lottery and unexpectedly won a reversal card, delighting him with the high success rate, and he resolved to save the remaining points to eventually purchase a Dharma body, as improving his cultivation realm was now his top priority. Moments later, the panel issued a new task reminder to discipline the 8th disciple, Zhu Honghong, and change the current situation, causing Lu Zhou to fall into deep thought, realizing he could no longer casually rely on peak experience cards, and that his current cultivation was more a liability than an advantage, with the 3 evildoers still by his side, and the truth bound to surface eventually. Currently, only Yuan'er remained truly reliable and loyal. Her cultivation had already reached the Divine Court realm, making her the most suitable companion at present, and accompanying him would also provide an opportunity to guide her toward becoming a good person, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, especially since he still had a reversal card left to use before making any irreversible decisions. With that thought, Lu Zhou returned to the Evil Sky Pavilion, while at the headquarters of the Tiger Ridge Gang, the scout sent to investigate Jingting Mountain hurried back to report that he had only seen a single Dharma body Upon hearing this, the fierce-looking Ju Honghong anxiously demanded what it looked like. And when told that it was 10 feet tall, 2 feet wide, bathed in golden light with an 8-petal golden lotus beneath it, his face instantly turned ashen as he fell from his seat, legs trembling as he muttered in despair that it truly was the master and that they were finished. Back at the Evil Sky Pavilion, which sat atop the mountain and served as residence of Ji Tiandao and his disciples, Lu Zhou used the reversal card, restoring his remaining lifespan to 613 days and making him appear noticeably younger, though he was left with only 150 merit points, an embarrassingly small amount. Rather than cultivating Ji Tiandao's original techniques, he decided to exchange for new ones from the system, believing that a person's tendency toward good or evil was not merely a matter of character but was also deeply tied to the techniques they practiced. As he pondered this, Sayuanur requested an audience, and, after entering with permission, remarked smoothly that he looked younger, prompting Lu Zhou to raise a hand and gently pat her head, only for her to blink brightly and shower him with praise, marveling that he alone had forced back the 10 top experts, and recalling his past claim that with sufficient strength, one could kill anyone, before asking why he hadn't killed her senior brothers and sisters. Startled by the dangerous thoughts hidden in her words, Lu Zhou told her solemnly to forget everything he had taught her in the past, to forget it completely. And when she hesitantly agreed and asked whether she should also forget the promise he had made to her, Lu Zhou was briefly stunned, having lost many memories after transmigrating into this body, until she reminded him that he had promised her the jade horsetail whisk upon her reaching the Divine Court realm, a heavenly ranked treasure that greatly enhanced cultivation power. Though he didn't recall the promise, he knew the treasure's value, yet all of Ji Tiandao's belongings had vanished upon his transmigration, leaving him no choice but to reply stiffly that she should forget about it. Seeing her disappointment, he quickly shifted the topic and promised to bestow another heavenly ranked treasure in the future, instantly restoring her joy. Following his instructions, Sayuanur then went to deal with the righteous sect members lurking near Jingting Mountain, and about 10 minutes later, Lu Zhou began hearing system notifications, each kill of an evildoer, granting him 10 merit points, a discovery that delighted him, as he realized that disciples completing tasks could also earn merit points for their master. Within half an hour, his total reached 300, allowing him to purchase the apprentice-ranked Taiji avatar. And the moment the exchange was completed, a surge of energy flooded his body, advancing his realm from the tempered body realm to the mystic enlightenment realm. Once the energy settled, he frowned at the panel, noting that the next realm required a staggering 1,000 merit points, an outrageous demand, and as Sayuanur finished cleaning up outside and the merit points stopped increasing, Lu Zhou rose slowly, intending to stretch his stiff muscles, only for a sword-like streak of lightning to suddenly stab toward his back. Reacting instantly, he turned to see Zhou Jifeng, a senior disciple of the Heavenly Sword Sect, whose attack was completely nullified by Lu Zhou's passive skill, Fatal Block. Zhou Jifeng froze in disbelief upon seeing Lu Zhou unharmed, then gritted his teeth and attacked again, only to fail once more, while Lu Zhou frowned deeply and stared at him in silence, the pressure in his gaze mounting. Then Lu Zhou spoke coldly. "What the hell are you trying to do?" On the surface he appeared calm, but inwardly he was on edge, knowing he could not afford to lose momentum even for a moment. Under the terrifying pressure radiating from him, Zhou Jifeng was so frightened he was nearly paralyzed. Lu Zhou snorted. "You overestimate yourself." Zhou Jifeng hesitated briefly before gritting his teeth and charging again. "You killed my master. Even if I die, I will have my revenge." Just as the longsword was less than a hair's breadth from its target, an enraged shout erupted from behind. "Who dares to sneak attack my master?" And with a deafening bang, Sayuanur struck, sending Zhou Jifeng crashing into a distant wall. "Master, let me tear him apart to vent your anger," she said coldly, killing intent flashing in her eyes. But Lu Zhou raised a hand to stop her as a system notification rang out, triggering a hidden branch quest. "Turn Zhou Jifeng to your side." After a brief pause, Lu Zhou said slowly, "If I killed your master, it's reasonable for you to seek revenge. But underestimating your own limits is nothing but courting death. It achieves nothing. At 9, you reach the tempered body realm. At 13, the sense-condensing realm. At 18, the Brahma Sea realm. And at 20, the Divine Court realm. You are a once-in-a-generation genius. You could have waited a few more years." Why rush to die now? Regret flickered across Zhou Jifeng's face, while Si Yuan'er scoffed disdainfully and began to boast of her own achievements, only to be silenced by Lu Zhou's stern glare. Turning back to Zhou Jifeng, Lu Zhou asked calmly, "Do you know why I didn't kill you? Did you truly believe Luo Changfeng was an upright man?" When Zhou Jifeng bristled, Lu Zhou continued evenly, "I knew Luo Changfeng before you were born. If I told you that your father's true killer was Luo Changfeng, would you believe it?" Zhou Jifeng roared in denial, accusing him of sowing discord, but Lu Zhou merely shook his head and recounted how years ago, in Yi Province, he encountered the Jiang family, whose newborn son possessed extraordinary talent, how he intended to take the child as a disciple, only to find the entire family slaughtered the next day, a crime the cultivation world later pinned on him, though the true culprit was Luo Changfeng. "You have a birthmark on your shoulder," Lu Zhou said flatly. "When you were born, your body was cold and damp. Your surname is Jiang. You are the son of that family." Zhou Jifeng froze. Almost no one knew of the birthmark, and Lu Zhou concluded, "You're still too young to bear the full truth. Leave. If you doubt me, ask your master, if he were still alive." When Zhou Jifeng cursed him again, Si Yuan'er's expression turned icy, and she threatened him into silence, prompting Lu Zhou to chuckle softly. "Your master destroyed the Jiang family, disgraced your mother, and took you away. 30 years ago, he broke through the nascent divinity realm. In the Dao fusing stage, one can devour another's cultivation and fuse it as one. And in the entire heavenly sword sect, only your cultivation path matched his exactly. Think carefully." With that, Lu Zhou waved his hand. "Send him away." Si Yuan'er hesitated, protesting that Zhou Jifeng had attacked him, but a sharp reprimand from Lu Zhou made her fall silent. Si Yuan'er stamped her foot in frustration, after which she dragged the still dazed Zhou Jifeng toward the window and sneered, calling him a foolish pig and asking whether her master really needed to lie to deceive someone like him, adding that it would be better to kill him outright. With that, she tossed him from the upper floor down to the ground, while Zhou Jifeng instinctively muttered, "I don't believe it," as a system prompt immediately sounded. Mission failed. Persuasion of Zhou Jifeng unsuccessful, causing Lu Zhou to sigh helplessly and curse inwardly at his stupidity. Seeing his reaction, Si Yuan'er asked in confusion why he hadn't killed the man, and Lu Zhou rose with his hands clasped behind his back, calmly explaining that killing was not the only way to solve problems, when she pointed out that he had just ordered her to kill orthodox cultivators down the mountain. He stroked his beard and replied evenly that while killing was not the only solution, it was always one of the options. Before he could say more, another system prompt appeared, informing him that his disciple had committed evil deeds and that his merit points were being deducted, which made Lu Zhou exclaim in disbelief. Merit points could be deducted too, and immediately summoned several disciples. Once they gathered, he frowned and demanded an explanation, prompting Ming Shiren to nervously claim they had only been patrolling near Jingting Mountain as instructed. But Lu Zhou calmly reminded them that he hated lies above all else, causing Ming Shiren's face to pale as he hurriedly confessed that some hunters had entered the southern area of the mountain and that he had intended to kill them all. Lu Zhou stopped him sharply, pointing out that the mountain's barrier had yet to be repaired and that it was normal for people to wander in by mistake, ordering them instead to drive such people away and only take action against those with malicious intent. The disciples bowed and accepted his command, then exchanged glances before leaving the Evil Sky Pavilion, still unaccustomed to such restraint, but unwilling to disobey after learning from past mistakes, suspecting that their master was experimenting with a new approach. Not long after, as Lu Zhou suddenly heard the system's voice, he had saved 5 innocent lives and was rewarded with 150 merit points. He had received worship from 14 individuals for another 14 merit points, and devout worship from one person for 10 more, followed by a prompt explaining that devout worship granted a 10-fold bonus. Lu Zhou immediately opened his eyes in surprise, thinking that this could actually be exploited and wondering why the system had not informed him earlier, then ordered his disciple to go inform the others that innocent people must be treated well. Soon, dawn arrived, and the scene shifted to the headquarters of the Tiger Ridge Gang, where a subordinate hurriedly reported that a reply had arrived from Yanyu Palace, causing Zhu Honghong, who was bathing, to brighten as he eagerly asked about its contents, only to be told that the palace master of the derived moon palace believed the old monster of Jinting Mountain had fully recovered his cultivation after killing Luo Changfeng in one move, and therefore could not offer assistance, advising Zhu Honghong, whose strength was the weakest, to hide well, which caused him to slip and fall in shock. At the same time, Lu Zhou received a system prompt stating educating Zhu Honghong and awarding 50 merit points, leaving him confused since he felt he had done nothing. And although he had accumulated just over 200 merit points in recent days, it was still insignificant compared to items costing thousands. So he decided to try the lottery, spending 50 merit points and unexpectedly drawing a white sard, a rare and permanent god-beast mount, which left him thrilled as he admired the creature he had tamed in a single draw, lamenting that although Ji Tiantao had once lived for 1,000 years and possessed countless treasures, he himself was now poor and empty-handed, knowing that while others relied on flying chariots or sword flight techniques, nothing compared to a true mount, one that in modern terms would be like the most luxurious car, since the stronger the beast, the greater the cultivator's prestige. With a thought, Lu Zhou dismissed Whitesard in a flash, the powerful fluctuation stirring unease among nearby evildoers, who silently agreed to pretend they had seen nothing. After which Lu Zhou drew 3 more times only to receive repeated "thank you for your patronage" messages, making him shake his head helplessly yet accept that the gains were already worthwhile. Meanwhile, at the foot of Jinting Mountain, 3 men on horseback appeared, one sighing that he hoped the old devil would help their clan survive the coming disaster for Yuanor's sake. And as they entered the forest, a voice rang out demanding to know who dared trespass, causing them to kneel and identify themselves as members of the CI family from Anyang, upon which Ming Shirin arrived from afar, and after Duan Mushing reminded him that the CI family was Junior Sister's clan, decided to follow their master's new gentle approach, stepping forward with a forced smile to help them up, though his friendliness only terrified them further, and their refusal instantly darkened his expression as he ordered them escorted up the mountain to await punishment. Shortly after, Lu Zhou received the report that the CI family sought an audience, calmly allowed them in, and soon found the 3 men kneeling and trembling before him as he glanced down and spoke evenly, stating that he had established a rule. Once someone entered Evil Sky Pavilion, Lu Zhou continued calmly, stating that once someone entered Evil Sky Pavilion, their family and friends were no longer allowed to maintain contact, then turned to see Yuanor and asked if she remembered this rule, prompting her to immediately reply that she would send them away at once. At that moment, the steward of the SI family suddenly looked up at her and broke down in tears, calling her miss and identifying himself as Si Wan, saying he had finally found her, and that the master and madam were in grave trouble, which caused Si Yuanor to freeze in surprise, since she had left home at the age of 10 and 5 years had passed, leaving her memories vague, while Duan Mushing and Zhao Yu reacted sharply and angrily rebuked him for daring to cry in such a place, saying that if he were not a relative, his mouth would already have been sewn shut. Yet Si Yuanor, worried for her family, fell to the ground and pleaded with her master. Ming Shirin's eyes flickered as he stepped forward respectfully and argued that rules were made by people, that Junior Sister's family was also their family, and that ignoring them in their time of need would make them worse than beasts, a sentiment Duan Mushing and Zhao Yu echoed by bowing in agreement, leading Lu Zhou to nod slightly and acknowledge that there was some truth in those words, though Evil Sky Pavilion could not interfere in every affair, which Ming Shirin immediately seized upon, praising Lu Zhou as an unrivaled powerhouse who need not concern himself with trivial matters. Earning eye rolls from the other 2 at his blatant flattery, Si Yuanor then signaled to the steward, who hesitated briefly before hurriedly explaining that the SI family had always conducted honest trade in Anyang City. But a month earlier their caravan had been robbed by mounted brigands in a river valley, and despite paying money to avoid trouble, the bandits later attacked Anyang, seized all their assets, and kidnapped over 100 people, with the authorities refusing to help out of fear because the brigands were rumored to be backed by cultivators, after which everyone instinctively looked to Lu Zhou, knowing that under normal circumstances Evil Sky Pavilion would never involve itself, though this case concerned Junior Sister's family. Before Lu Zhou spoke, Ming Shirin stepped forward again and asked to atone for his past misdeeds by doing good, insisting that as a senior brother he could not stand by while his Junior Sister's family suffered, and requesting permission to help despite his punishment, a shamelessness that left the others speechless. But after brief consideration, Lu Zhou agreed, saying the matter should have been handled by Xiao Yuan herself, though she was young and impulsive. and since Ming Shirin was willing, he would entrust it to him for 3 days, prompting Ming Shirin to swear not to disappoint, before turning into a streak of light and departing, while Lu Zhou instructed Xiao Yuan to accompany the family down the mountain, and reassured her that although her 4th senior brother was fond of the outside world, he was thoughtful and decisive, and would likely resolve the issue within a day. Afterward, Lu Zhou summoned Xiao Yu and ordered her to spend 2 days investigating the Heavenly Sword Sect, especially Zhou Jifeng, which she accepted eagerly, leaving Lu Zhou satisfied with his arrangements as he reflected that Zhou Jifeng still needed to be closely watched, especially after the assassination attempt that had led his 3rd and 9th disciples to guard the pavilion like door gods, a lapse that had allowed minor enemies to infiltrate Jingting Mountain. Xiao Yuan then asked anxiously whether the 4th senior brother would truly be fine, to which Duan Muxing replied that although Old 4 was playful and sometimes unreliable, he never held back when it came to missions, and that there would be consequences if he failed, prompting Si Yuanor to murmur that it would be better if 7th senior brother were here, a remark Duan Muxing immediately rebuked, reminding her that traitors to the sect were unforgivable criminals who must be confronted head-on. Upon hearing this, Lu Zhou shook his head to indicate it was fine, explaining that although 7th senior brother was indeed a rare talent skilled in schemes, he enjoyed manipulating people's hearts too much, and was prone to becoming trapped by his own thoughts. When suddenly a transmission bird sent by a senior sister flew over. These transmission birds were no ordinary creatures, but spirit-nurtured mutants of Jingting Mountain that had grown into fierce beasts of the great Yan world, and under Lu Zhou's instruction, Si Yuanor flew up to retrieve the letter and read it aloud, reporting that after the top 10 sects besieged Golden Court Mountain and Luo Changfeng's death, the Heavenly Sword Sect had fallen into chaos with factions fighting for leadership, that Zhou Jifeng had failed to become sect leader upon his return, that the former leader Luo Xingkong had suddenly entered seclusion and might be attempting to break through to the Dao fusing stage of the nascent divinity tribulation realm, and that Zhou Yifeng had shown signs of disloyalty during her night surveillance. After listening, Lu Zhou calmly remarked that the progress was a bit slow, and ordered that Zhao Yu be informed to assist if necessary, which puzzled Duan Muxing, who questioned why they should help their archenemy, though Lu Zhou did not answer since their loyalty had not yet reached a safe threshold, causing Duan Muxing to awkwardly fall silent. At that moment, the system issued a prompt announcing that Ming Shirin had completed his task, rescuing 105 members of the SI family and earning 1,050 merit points, along with their worship for another 1,050 points, as well as slaying 82 mounted brigands for 820 merit points, which immediately brightened Lu Zhou's eyes at the unexpectedly huge gain, followed by another letter from Ming Shirin reporting the successful rescue and extermination, while casually mentioning that the cultivators backing the brigands might be connected to Old 8's Tiger Ridge gang, and that he would investigate further, an excuse Lu Zhou easily saw through but chose to ignore due to his good mood, simply instructing Old 4 to look into it before returning to his residence. There, he eagerly spent 1,000 merit points to purchase the 2 Transform Powers avatar, feeling a massive surge of energy flood his body as his cultivation rapidly soared, after which he nodded in satisfaction. Then bought 2 reversal cards as green spiritual vortices appeared above Evil Sky Pavilion, and extended his lifespan by 600 days. Though his attempt to use the remaining points on the lottery ended in 5 consecutive thank you for your patronage results that killed his interest, leaving him resigned to staying temporarily on Jingting Mountain, since leaving with his current strength would be unsafe, especially as long as these evildoers remained to protect him. After considering his situation, he summoned Si Yuanor and instructed her to bring the 4 treasures of the study, and she promptly complied by preparing everything and carefully grinding ink at his side, while Lu Zhou wrote the names of his 9 disciples on white paper one by one, and pondered deeply, realizing that even the youngest was already at the Divine Court realm, and wondering what realm the eldest disciple had reached, whether he surpassed Jitian Dao, how such savage, wolf-like disciples could have allowed an old monster like Jitian Dao to survive in this world, whether Jitian Dao had hidden trump cards when teaching them, and what life-saving measures he had left behind, memories of which were frustratingly missing, until his thoughts were interrupted by Si Yuanor tugging his hand and remarking that he had taken only 9 disciples, and that with his ability he could open Evil Sky Pavilion and Jinting Court Mountain to accept tens of thousands more. With so many disciples, no one would dare disobey you, Si Yuanor continued excitedly, saying that the orthodox sects would no longer dare provoke them, and that with a single command from him, Countless disciples could wipe out anyone who refused to submit, declaring confidently that those who obey would prosper, while those who resisted would perish. Upon hearing these words, Lu Zhou's pupils suddenly lit up as a realization struck him. So that was how it was, prompting him to pick up the paper again and study it carefully. Where the line "The bright moon shines over the sea from far away, we share this moment together" came to mind. And he realized that although the poem contained the names of all 9 disciples, there was still one character missing, the final crucial one. If Jitiandao had truly chosen disciples based on this poem, then the criteria had never been talent, but their names instead. Yet what Lu Zhou could not understand was how Jitiandao could have known a poem that originated from his own world, leading him to a chilling thought. Could it be that Jitiandao, like himself, was also a transmigrator? My master is an unforgivable old demon, and every time wicked thoughts of leaving the sect arise in my heart, I inevitably succumb to his tyrannical power. But now I can finally leave the mountain to carry out a mission, and this time I must enjoy myself thoroughly before returning. The 4th disciple, Ming Shirin, swiftly flew over the town below, his arrival causing the townspeople to cry out in astonishment. Having finally left Jingting Mountain, he originally intended to descend and indulge himself, yet remembering that Master now preferred new methods and disliked the old ways, he reluctantly abandoned that idea. In that case, he thought, I'll be a good person for once, and reward you ants with treasures plundered from bandits. With this in mind, he opened his backpack and scattered its contents toward the town, and as gold and silver rained from the sky, the people hurriedly dodged at first. But once they recognized the valuables, they immediately fell to their knees and kowtowed repeatedly. At that very moment, Lu Zhou received a system notification that 35 people had devoutly worshipped him, earning him 350 merit points, which delighted him greatly. Soon after, Ming Shirin arrived at the territory of the Tiger Ridge gang and called out, "Old 8, I've come to see you," before leaping lightly toward the mountains and forests. Inside the village, a subordinate reported that a cultivator sought an audience, and Zhu Honghong, who had finally fallen into rare, peaceful sleep after living in constant fear since learning that Master's cultivation had been restored, irritably ordered them to drive the visitor away, even threatening to castrate and feed him to the fierce beasts. His subordinates hesitated in confusion, but before they could clarify, a hearty laugh echoed from outside, and upon hearing the familiar voice, Zhu Honghong shouted in fright and fell to the ground. Ming Shirin strode in slowly, and seeing it was only 4th senior brother, Zhu Honghong sighed in relief and even attempted to persuade him to stay, claiming Jingting Mountain was no place to live and offering him the position of deputy village chief. Ming Shirin scoffed at the suggestion, mocked the shabby village for not even having a proper gate, and brushed past the trembling subordinates to take the main seat, his brows furrowing as he went straight to the point and questioned whether Zhu Honghong had been involved in the kidnapping and extortion of the Anyang City SI family. Zhu Honghong hurriedly denied it, arguing that the SI family were their junior sister's relatives and that even he would not stoop so low, but Ming Shirin calmly replied that he had already killed all the bandits, and that one accomplice had mentioned the Tiger Ridge gang before dying, asking whether he was falsely accusing him. Zhu Honghong frowned and reasoned that since establishing the Tiger Ridge gang they had offended many cultivators and might be framed. Yet Ming Shirin remained indifferent and declared that he would bring him back to see Master. At the mere mention of Master, Zhu Honghong broke into a cold sweat and slumped down, suggesting they overlook the matter since Master was injured and hinting that Ming Shirin would eventually leave Jingting Mountain anyway. But Ming Shirin exploded in anger, denouncing him as a traitor who dishonored Master and their ancestors, ordering him to kneel, and warning that Master had recently defeated the top 10 nascent divinity tribulation experts of the cultivation world, proving that his cultivation had not regressed, but grown even more profound. Trembling uncontrollably, Zhu Honghong produced a letter from 7th senior brother stating that Master's cultivation had long been at the perfected stage of the nascent divinity realm, that he had attempted to break through to a higher realm 200 years ago, but failed, and that witnesses had seen him wounded when ambushed by the top 10 experts, raising the lingering question of how Master had suddenly recovered his cultivation base. Upon hearing this, Ming Shirin furrowed his brows suspiciously and asked whether 7th senior brother meant that Master had relied on some kind of secret medicine. Zhu Honghong nodded and replied that both of them understood eldest senior brother's cultivation level, which was not inferior to Master's. And yet after all these years, eldest senior brother had never made a move against Master. Why was that? Ming Shireen tossed the letter aside and said coldly that no one knew how many killing moves Master still had hidden. But regardless of how many tricks he possessed, he could not surpass the limits of lifespan and would die sooner or later. Slightly startled, Ming Shireen narrowed his eyes and questioned. Old 8, 7th senior brother, didn't write those words in the letter. Who told you that? Did you figure it out with your pig brain? Or was it 6th junior sister or 2nd senior brother? Chu Honghong innocently insisted it was merely his own speculation. Ming Shireen waved it off, saying that if he did not wish to speak further, so be it. But despite having considered the contents of the letter, he was different. He still respected and followed Master's teachings. He added that Master was currently in seclusion on the mountain, and likely would not descend anytime soon. So Zhu Honghong should obediently remain at Tiger Ridge Gang and avoid causing trouble. Fortunate that Master had not ordered him killed. Overjoyed, Zhu Honghong hurriedly bowed in thanks. Ming Shireen further instructed him to thoroughly investigate the matter of the bandits so he could report back, then left behind a fleeting afterimage and vanished in the blink of an eye. After his departure, Zhu Honghong trembled uncontrollably, his legs shaking as subordinates anxiously asked what was wrong. Forcing himself to stay composed, he reassured them it was nothing. Yet the image of 7th senior brother surfaced in his mind, bringing a sense of relief. That was close, he thought. 7th senior brother was right. Master's body had indeed declined with age. His meridians were worn. His Dantian and Sea of Chi lacked vitality, and gathering energy had become exceedingly difficult. In other words, the techniques in Master's possession were better suited for disciples rather than himself. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou shook his head helplessly. This old body truly felt uncomfortable. He needed to accumulate vitality first, yet with only 1,000 merit points, the amount was far too small. At the current rate of accumulation, rejuvenation would be difficult, though killing the bandits earlier and receiving the people's worship had yielded substantial merit rewards. With these thoughts, an idea struck him. He immediately summoned Xia Yuanor and asked whether there was any recent news from the outside world. She replied that she had remained on Jingting Mountain and knew nothing of worldly affairs. Lu Zhou calmly explained that in Tanzi, the town nearest Jingting Court Mountain, there was a station where cultivators frequently stopped to rest and exchange information, even selling news for payment, and she could go there to inquire. Hearing she was permitted to leave the mountain, Xia Yuanor became visibly delighted and bowed to confirm. Lu Zhou teasingly asked whether she felt oppressed staying on the mountain, to which she hurriedly denied, saying she was merely bored from not going out for so long. He then ordered her to go, warning her not to reveal her identity casually and not to kill indiscriminately. When she asked what to do if bullied, he lightly patted her head, confident no one would dare oppress his disciple, and told her that if others did not provoke her, she should not provoke them, but if they did, she must retaliate decisively. Acknowledging his command, Xia Yuanor leaped into the air and flew away. Watching her graceful departure, Lu Zhou felt a tinge of envy, wondering when he himself could move so freely. As he pondered, Duan Mushing arrived to report that 3 formations had been repaired, though 5 remained, and at this pace he could not complete them alone. Lu Zhou knew this well. Although he had once intended for the 3 of them to repair the formations together, the arrays consumed immense energy, and even Duan Mushing's high cultivation could not endure their constant drain. Still, complaints about repairing the formations could not be tolerated, and Lu Zhou could not afford to appear weak. With that in mind, he spoke coldly. If it can't be repaired in 1 year, then take 2. If it can't be done in 2 years, then take 3. If anyone dares object, I will show no mercy. Hearing these cold words, Duan Mushing broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly replied, "Disciple understands. Disciple will continue repairing the formations." With that, he withdrew at once, leaving Lu Zhou alone. Lu Zhou reopened the system panel and initiated the lottery, but to his irritation, after 10 consecutive draws, all he received were "thank you for your patronage." His face darkened as he cursed the system for being a scam. Left with only a few merit points, he used the remaining 4 to purchase a reversal card. With nothing else to do and trapped in this aging body, he felt he could only lie there waiting for death. Unlike his previous life where he could at least stroll through the park, play chess, cards, or walk a dog. Just then, a string of system notifications rang out. Completion of Zhou Jifeng's defection mission rewarded 200 merit points. Zhou Jifeng's hostility reset to 0. Loyalty increased by 10%. Killing 2 elders rewarded another 200 merit points. Lu Zhou's eyes lit up as he praised Zhao Yu inwardly for a job well done. While he was still pleased, Ming Yin floated up from below the mountain and reported respectfully, "Disciple has completed the mission against all odds and has returned to report." Lu Zhou glanced at him, and his brows subtly furrowed. Ming Yin's loyalty had dropped to 58 points, clearly signaling a problem. Seeing that Master remained silent, Ming Yin continued, explaining that after killing the bandits, he had sent a carrier pigeon report and then visited Tiger Ridge Gang to see 8th junior brother, correcting himself to call Zhu Honghong a traitor, and claimed he had given him a proper lesson. After finishing, he waited quietly for a response, then added nervously, "Everything I said is true. I dare not lie." Lu Zhou finally spoke calmly, "You have done well completing the mission. However, how goes the investigation into the kidnapping of our junior sister's relative?" Ming Yin answered that it was still under investigation, and that Zhu Honghong denied involvement. Upon reflection, he believed Zhu Honghong lacked motive, especially since it concerned their junior sister's kin, and although he had betrayed the sect, he did not seem capable of such cruelty. Lu Zhou nodded. "You make a valid point, but besides that..." Ming Yin's heart trembled, and he feigned ignorance. Lu Zhou fixed him with a cold stare. "When you went to Old Eight's place, you must have said more than that." Startled but determined not to expose any thoughts of defection, Ming Yin insisted that was all. Lu Zhou shook his head lightly. "Very well. If you don't wish to speak, I won't force you. You've done well on this mission. Go assist your 3rd senior brother with repairing the formations. I will summon you if needed." "Understood, Master." Before leaving, Ming Yin glanced around and asked about Xia Yuanur. "That is none of your concern," Lu Zhou replied curtly, then picked up a secret manual and began reading. Yet Ming Yin did not leave. Instead, he suddenly knelt with a thud. "Master, I have cultivated the blue wood technique to its final level, yet no matter how I try, I cannot grasp its true essence. I humbly ask for guidance." It was clearly a deliberate test. Jitian Dao likely had not passed down the complete technique, and if these wicked disciples fully mastered it, their breakthroughs would eventually threaten Lu Zhou himself. Clearing his throat, Lu Zhou said evenly, "Old 4, impatience is the greatest taboo in cultivation. Behind every almighty expert lie hundreds of years of dull meditation and hardship. Your last breakthrough was only 60 years ago. Why rush to climb higher? At the final stage, progress depends on comprehension. Your understanding is not poor, but guard your heart against restlessness and deviation." Hearing this, Ming Yin respectfully cupped his fists. "Thank you for your enlightenment, Master." This disciple was foolish. After a pause, he added, "I've also been practicing a boxing technique recently, yet it never feels quite right. I ask for your guidance once more." Lu Zhou frowned slightly and asked, "What's wrong with it?" Lu Zhou asked calmly, though inwardly he was already speculating that this wicked disciple must have heard something from Old 8 that aroused suspicion, prompting this deliberate probing. If he refused to guide him, it would only deepen that suspicion. Yet if he agreed, he would have to find a way to offer guidance, despite being merely in the mystic enlightening realm, while the disciple stood in the divine court realm. It was like asking a child to instruct an adult. He certainly could not waste a precious peak experience card on such a matter. Ming Yin explained, "I feel this boxing technique cannot unleash its full power. Whenever I strike, it feels as though something obstructs it." Lu Zhou maintained a composed expression and nodded. "Show me outside the pavilion." "Understood, Master." Ming Yin rose and lightly tapped the ground with his toes, floating into the air as graceful as a swallow. He weaved and dodged, while throwing punches in rapid succession, leaving behind layers of after-images as air waves rolled outward. After several strikes, he hovered mid-air and shouted, "Master, this is the punch!" Countless fist shadows merged into one and blasted toward the mountain wall. With a thunderous crash, rocks shattered and scattered in every direction. A moment later, Ming Yin descended. Large stones continued to tumble outside the pavilion, though fortunately, the structure remained intact. Lu Zhou paused, feeling slightly awkward. Truthfully, he had not seen it clearly at all. With his current cultivation, he could not track Ming Yin's speed. However, from memory, He knew Jitian Dao had indeed taught this boxing technique to Ming Shirin, and there was nothing inherently wrong with it, only that without the final oral formula, its power was greatly diminished. After a brief contemplation, Lu Zhou spoke evenly. Your punch has already reached its essence. There is no flaw. Then his expression hardened, as if recalling something. Old Four, do you understand your mistake? Ming Shirin's face turned pale as cold sweat poured down. He immediately dropped to his knees, kowtowing loudly. Disciple understands his mistake. I would never dare deceive Master. Guilt overwhelmed him, as though his conversation with Old Eight had been fully exposed. Stroking his beard, Lu Zhou glanced toward a nearby giant rock. Old Three, since you're already here, come out. Do you think I don't know you're hiding in the corner? In the next instant, Duan Muxing appeared and hurriedly knelt, admitting fault. Watching the two tremble, Lu Zhou realized how deeply Jitian Dao's former authority had rooted fear within them. Were he an ordinary villain, they might have rebelled long ago. Old Four, since Old Three is present, let him guide you in refining your boxing technique. Matters of cultivation cannot be treated lightly. Duan Muxing responded with visible relief. Yes, I will follow your orders. While Ming Shirin's expression grew frustrated and despondent, he sensed his master had grown even more cunning. Where once he would have been beaten personally, now senior brother would handle it instead. After the two left, silence returned to the pavilion. Lu Zhou frowned, increasingly troubled. Ming Shirin's suspicion had indeed deepened. If this continued, he would eventually request a sparring session. Using a peak experience card for that would be wasteful, especially with only two remaining. Yet the situation could not persist indefinitely. Perhaps decisive action would soon be necessary. Not long after, Xiao Yuana returned to Jingting Mountain from Tanzi Town and began reporting the information she had gathered. After Master defeated the top 10 experts, the 10 major sects are adjusting. It is said they are not recruiting disciples for now. The Heavenly Sword Sect is in internal turmoil following Luo Chongfeng's death. Eldest senior brother Zhou Jifeng has already left the sect. The other sects are behaving obediently, except for eldest senior brother. Realizing she misspoke, she stuck out her tongue and quickly corrected herself. The Netherworld sect has sent people to inquire about news of Jingting Mountain. It seems they are wary of Master. Lu Zhou let out a cold snort. I taught him personally, forged him into the feared sect leader of the Netherworld sect, and granted him a perfected nascent divinity tribulation cultivation base. Even so, he dares not touch me. Continue. Xiao Yuaner then recounted everything she had learned in meticulous detail, speaking for nearly 20 minutes as if listing treasures. Lu Zhou listened with furrowed brows. Then, he called the other two disciples over, and Ming Shirin's face was already bruised and swollen as he approached. Lu Zhou looked at both of them and spoke. I summoned you because I have several tasks for you. Zhou Jifeng of the Heavenly Sword Sect has defected. Old Three, I want you to track him and investigate. His current identity and status should make it possible for him to join a new sect. Report to me immediately once you learn anything. As for Old Four, I have a special mission for you. Throughout my life, I have caused much turmoil, and I have handed you 9 infamous villains whose names have stirred great outrage. Now I want you to eliminate this scourge. Ming Shirin was startled and quickly dropped to his knees. Although I possess the cultivation of the divine court realm, I am still far inferior to eldest senior brother Yu Zhenghai and second senior brother Yu Shangrong. I am no match even for junior sister Qiangxin. She wields the amorous hoop, a heaven-grade treasure, and has killed countless people. I fear she has already reached the nascent divinity tribulation realm. Lu Zhou naturally understood the situation. These disciples had once relied on powerful weapons and formidable cultivation to become feared villains. Duan Muxing, Ming Shirin, and Zhao Yu had not truly abandoned the sect because of Jitian Dao's cruelty alone, but because he had taken their complete techniques and treasures, leaving them weakened. Eldest disciple Yu Jinghai possessed the Jasper Saber, a heaven-grade treasure at full strength capable of shattering an avatar of the same realm, while sixth disciple Yi Tianjin wielded the amorous hoop, another heaven-grade artifact that had allowed her to slay innumerable foes. After reflecting on this, Lu Zhou calmly said, Old Eight's cultivation is only at the Dao control stage of the Divine Court realm, while you are at the Dao transform stage. You will begin with him. Have you ever met Old 8 before? Ming Shirin replied quickly. I did visit Tiger Ridge Gang. Old 8 is foolish. I suspect he was misled by 7th junior brother, which led to his defection. It does not warrant death. Lu Zhou remained silent, standing with his hands behind his back and turning away from him. After a moment he spoke again. Come closer. Ming Shirin trembled at the command but obediently stepped forward. Look me in the eyes, Lu Zhou ordered Ed. He turned around, his gaze heavy with meaning. You are very nervous, he observed. Your eyes shift, and there is a faint circulation of qi around you. Are you afraid I will strike you down? Ming Shirin, drenched in cold sweat and barely able to stand, immediately knelt and begged, Master, your cultivation is unfathomable, and I know I am no match for you. My caution is only instinct. It was not my intention to offend. Lu Zhou studied him and felt a trace of emotion. He had truly frightened the disciple. Ji Tiandao's method of discipline had always relied on violence, instilling both fear and deep resentment. If a disciple ever surpassed their master in strength, it was almost inevitable they would strike back. The situation had reached a point of no return. I know what you're thinking, Lu Zhou said calmly. So, I am giving you an opportunity. He handed over a sheet of paper with the final incantation of the Bluewood technique written upon it. With this technique, your cultivation will advance further. Perhaps even stepping into the nascent divinity tribulation realm will not be impossible. Ming Shirin stared at the paper in disbelief as turmoil filled his heart. Based on past experience, accepting something like this would, at the very least, cost him a broken hand. Yet ever since Lu Zhou defeated the 10 top experts, his master's temperament had drastically changed and the old patterns seemed replaced by new ones. In other words, he could actually accept it. Trembling, he reached out and took the incantation. Thank you, Master, for granting me this chance. I will do my utmost to clean up the sect. Lu Zhou nodded in satisfaction and dismissed him, while the other 2 disciples watched with undisguised envy. I hope you both fulfill your duties, and do not disappoint me. We will follow your orders, Duan Muxing replied with a bow before leaving the pavilion. Xiao Yuan, however, pouted, and expressed her wish to go on a mission as well. You are still young and lack experience. Stay by my side, Lu Zhou said. Confused, she asked. Wasn't Zhou Jifeng's matter meant to be handled by senior sister Xiao Yu? Taking a sip of his drink, Lu Zhou explained. Xiao Yu acts unpredictably and lacks stability. She has been gone for 2 days after completing her task and has not returned. It is very likely she has left directly. Xiao Yuaner's face turned pale. Does that mean senior sister won't come back? She asked, clenching her fists in frustration. How can senior sister Xiao Yu be like this? Do not worry about her, Lu Zhou replied indifferently. Since the day Xiao Yu sent her message, there had been no further news. If Ming Shirin's loyalty could drop so easily after a single outing, then Xiao Yu must have fallen under even stronger influence to choose betrayal. He understood that disciplining these disciples would require time and patience. For now, restoring vitality and improving cultivation was the priority. Xiao Yuaner waved her fists indignantly on his behalf. She is betraying her master and ancestors. How can we let it go? Finding her reaction somewhat adorable, Lu Zhou said, For now, inquire about Zhao Yu's whereabouts at the post station. I will remain here in seclusion to focus on cultivation. She acknowledged the order and left the pavilion. Meanwhile, as they descended the mountain, the 2 disciples encountered one another. Duan Muxing spoke with faint envy, Old 4. You are truly fortunate this time. Master not only spared you, but even gave you the final part of the Bluewood technique. Ming Shirin crossed his arms. I do not know what he is thinking. Perhaps I am overthinking. Duan Muxing's expression shifted. Overthinking? I completed my mission successfully, so it is natural for Master to reward me. But 7th senior brother once mentioned, but Master possesses a secret medicine capable of temporarily concealing injuries, so I wanted to test it. He sighed. There is no use regretting it now. Duan Muxing was startled. You truly have courage. Even without 7th senior brother's words, it is clear, if Master were uninjured and at his peak, would he remain on the mountain? With his temperament, he would have long gone out to kill. In that battle, he unleashed so many powerful moves without visible harm. Ordinary cultivators would never dare waste their vital energy like that. Ming Shirin nodded repeatedly. Senior brother, I have always desired the complete Bluewood technique. With it, I believe I can soon reach the perfected stage of the Divine Court realm, and perhaps even step into the nascent Divinity Tribulation realm like eldest and second senior brothers. Yet now that I have obtained it, I feel something difficult to describe. Duan Muxing understood his implication. Ever since junior sister Changsun betrayed the sect, Master has refused to teach the final portion of any technique. This time he made an exception for you. Are you afraid he has other intentions? Ming Shireen nodded. Indeed, senior brother. What do you think those intentions are? Before he could finish, Duan Muxing suddenly patted his shoulder. My advice is simple. Complete Master's tasks honestly. Remember, Master is injured and nearing the end of his lifespan. He has no reason to harm us. Furthermore, the 10 major sects have already suffered heavy losses and will not dare to provoke Jingting Mountain easily. I believe that for a long time to come, Jingting Mountain will remain our protective talisman. Hearing this, Ming Shireen's eyes lit up and he felt much more at ease. He quickly cupped his fists in gratitude. That makes sense, senior brother. You truly are wise despite appearing foolish. Your words are enlightening. The scene shifted. Although disciplining Ming Shireen had recently earned some merit points, the total amounted to only 1,600. For someone who required 3,000 merit points to advance to the next realm, it was far from sufficient. Should I wait a little longer? No, I cannot wait. This body's foundation is too poor. I cannot walk Jitiandao's old path. It was precisely because of his lifespan issues that his cultivation gradually declined. I must draw the lottery as usual. Thinking this, Lu Zhou immediately acted. Unfortunately, in 5 consecutive attempts he received only "thank you for your patronage," bringing the total failures to 23, including the previous 18, gaining nothing but a few luck points. Lu Zhou almost cursed aloud. Try 2 more times, and if it still fails, I will buy a reversal card with the remaining points. Having decided, he continued, yet the next 2 draws were again "thank you for your patronage." If I fail once more, I will stop. However, as he became more invested, unconsciously used nearly 1,000 merit points, leaving himself with only 104. He nearly collapsed in despair. Although he knew his luck was poor, he had no better option and could only continue. This time, the draw consumed 50 merit points and 33 luck points. You have obtained a cultivation technique, 3 scrolls of heaven writing, 10 reversal cards, 1 avatar, 3 condensing flowers. The sudden reward left him stunned. The less hope he had, the greater the return seemed. Realizing this, he felt as though he had struck it rich. To purchase 3 condensing flowers would normally require 3,000 merit points. 10 reversal cards would cost 5,000. He had even obtained the cultivation technique 3 scrolls of heaven writing. His thoughts stirred as he opened the first volume, the human scroll of heaven writing. Yet the contents resembled random symbols, completely incomprehensible. With no choice, he set it aside. He then focused on the reversal cards, each roughly equivalent to 300 days of lifespan, meaning 10 cards amounted to nearly 10 years. As he used them one after another, tremendous energy gathered into vortexes and flowed into his body, and his previously slack skin gradually became firmer. After utilizing the Dharma body with the 3 condensing flowers, his realm instantly advanced to the sense-condensing realm. Cultivators began by tempering the body, entering the body-tempering realm to refine tendons, bones, and skin, breaking through 9 stages to reach the mystic enlightening realm. From there, they opened the 5 apertures, heart, mouth, nose, eyes, and ears, advancing to the sense-condensing realm, then breaking through 3 stages to the Brahmasi realm, and finally opening 8 meridians to step into the Divine Court realm. Upon reaching the Divine Court realm, one was considered a Grand Cultivator. There were only 3 levels among Grand Cultivators: Divine Court realm, Nascent Divinity Tribulation realm, and the legendary mysterious Heaven Saint realm. Since ancient times, those who truly reached the mysterious Heaven Saint realm existed only in legend. None had been seen. It was said that only by attaining that realm could one break free from the limits of lifespan and achieve immortality. Ji Tiandao had been merely 1 step away when he died in the pavilion. What a pity. After obtaining so many rewards, Lu Zhou felt quite satisfied. He opened the system panel, which displayed 2 tasks, disciplining Zhu Honggong and Zhou Jifeng. At present, merit points could only be gained through disciplining these wayward disciples. Analyzing the situation, he noted that the 8th disciple, Zhu Honggong, was simple-minded and theoretically the easiest to correct. So why had his loyalty not increased? According to Ming Shirin's report, there seemed to be influence from the 7th disciple behind Zhu Honggong. The 7th disciple was adept at scheming and, in order to secure his position in the cultivation world, had likely forged strong ties with the eldest and 2nd disciples. It seemed that disciplining a single disciple was far from sufficient. Only by strengthening himself could he truly deter both the rebellious disciples and the righteous cultivators watching from afar. Yet his current cultivation was still too low. Lu Zhou sighed helplessly, aware that the situation was becoming increasingly difficult. Jingting Mountain had already drawn too much attention. For now, he decided to focus on comprehending the heaven writing. 2 days later, within the Yanyu Palace, a graceful and beautiful woman gently waved a feather fan in her hand. She was Yi Tianjin, the 6th disciple of the former sect leader, and ranked 9th on the sinister list. Slowly opening her eyes as someone approached from outside, she spoke first. "Senior sister, you should have left Jingting Mountain long ago. Why wait until now?" Zhao Yu, the 5th disciple, sighed. "I did not have your luck. I thought I could obtain something from that old man, but he has not revealed anything. Since you left, he has never trusted us." Yi Tianjin descended lightly from above and replied, "I advised you the same back then, senior sister. Although you entered the sect before me, there are things you failed to see clearly. Who knows how many treasures that old man still hides? Unfortunately, those treasures will likely follow him into his coffin. However, I can offer you a suggestion." Zhao Yu's interest was piqued. "What suggestion?" Yi Tianjin said calmly. "The old man dotes on the youngest junior sister. Use her to test his limits. If old 4 and old 3 harbor any ill intentions, he will never fully trust them. Only the youngest junior sister can remain by his side and protect him. No matter how many secret medicines or hidden trump cards he has, they cannot compare to a living person." Zhao Yu was shocked. "Are you serious? Even if I had 10 times the courage, I would not dare threaten the junior sister to manipulate master. If it provokes him and he uses his hidden cards, like when he killed Luo Changfeng to warn the others, it would be disastrous." Yi Tianjin seemed to read her thoughts. "What's wrong, senior sister? Are you afraid? Think about how that old man treated us in the past. You must be ruthless." Zhao Yu hesitated. "I understand, but even eldest senior brother would not dare do such a thing. If I provoke him like that, it would be suicide." Yi Tianjin chuckled softly. "Senior sister, you have stayed on the mountain too long and grown dull. Who said you must act personally? Look at eldest senior brother, 2nd senior brother, and even me. We are doing well, are we not? I admit he has hidden cards, but he is cautious and will not use them lightly. That alone proves his cards are limited. Besides, he is aging, and his sea of qi will eventually dry up. When that time comes, he may use everything recklessly. It is more dangerous to remain by his side. Our priority is to uncover his secrets through indirect means. Even if he discovers it was us, we can simply avoid him. If we cannot overpower him, can we not outwit him?" Hearing this, Zhao Yu's brows gradually relaxed. The reasoning seemed sound. She had to admit that Yi Tianjin's rise was due not only to cultivation, but also to her sharp cunning. Thus, inside the Yanyu Palace, they continued plotting against their master. Meanwhile, unaware of their scheme, Lu Zhou remained in seclusion, studying the heaven writing diligently. He felt increasingly frustrated. Aside from the first page, the rest appeared like incomprehensible symbols, living up to its name. At that moment, Xiao Yuan's voice sounded from outside. "Master, you have been in seclusion for 4 days. 4th senior brother came yesterday to see you, but I did not dare disturb you and asked him to leave." Hearing this, Lu Zhou stretched and walked toward the door. When he opened it, Xiao Yuan's eyes widened. "Master, you look younger," she exclaimed. Standing with his hands behind his back, Lu Zhou calmly regarded her. Though he had only regained about 10 years of youth, the change was noticeable. "I entered seclusion not only to improve my cultivation, but also to rejuvenate this aging body," he said evenly. "You have worked hard these past few days." Xiao Yuan chuckled and quickly flattered him. "This is my duty as your disciple. I believe Master will certainly break through and become the first cultivator in Great Yan to step into the mysterious Heaven Saint realm." Lu Zhou was pleased by her words. Stroking his beard, he asked, Has Old Three sent any news these past few days? When he heard that there had been none, he was surprised. With Duan Muxing's cultivation, investigating Zhou Jifeng should not have been difficult. Even without results, he should have at least sent an update. Why was there complete silence? Xiao Yuan voiced her concern. Master, could Old Three betray us like senior sister Xiao Yu? Lu Zhou shook his head. Unlikely. Duan Muxing's loyalty is above 70%, unlike Xiao Yu's. Moreover, I have received no prompt from the system, which means he has not betrayed us, for now. Still, the human heart is unpredictable. We cannot lower our guard. As he spoke, he could not help but sigh. At that moment, Xiao Yuan suddenly pointed upward, signaling someone's approach. Lu Zhou looked up and saw Ming Shirin flying toward them like a streak of lightning. Seeing his fourth disciple again, Lu Zhou felt a trace of envy. It was obvious that Ming Shirin had already comprehended more than half of the final layer of the Bluewood technique. These wicked disciples truly possessed astonishing talent. "Welcome, Master, out of seclusion," Ming Shirin said as he landed and knelt on one knee. Yet his heart trembled when he saw Lu Zhou. Not only did his master look younger, but his aura had become even more chilling. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said calmly, "Rise. You have comprehended 70 to 80% of the final layer of the Bluewood technique. However, your cultivation leans toward the wood attribute and excels in vitality. Make good use of this advantage." Hearing this guidance, Ming Shirin was overjoyed. Ever since Sixth Junior Sister left, Master had rarely instructed them personally. Under such strained circumstances, this sudden guidance felt generous and unexpected. Then Ming Shirin reported, "Recently near Anyang, I heard that the people of Junior Sister's clan have been kidnapped again. I am willing to investigate and ensure the mastermind is exposed and eliminated." As soon as he finished, Xiao Yuan immediately knelt. "Master, let me handle this." Lu Zhou pondered. They were her clansmen, so her urgency was natural. However, Ming Shirin was more experienced and had higher cultivation. It would be safer for him to handle it. Just as he considered this, a messenger bird descended from the sky. Xiao Yuan quickly retrieved the letter and read aloud, "Master, during my investigation at the Heavenly Sword Sect, I found that the sect leader's position is temporarily vacant and that Zhou Jifeng has left the sect. Further inquiry revealed that he joined the Righteous Sect. Their sect leader, Zhang Yuanzhan, appointed him as one of the 4 elders, making him the youngest elder there. Because Zhang Yuanjian's cultivation is profound, I did not probe too deeply. However, from the information gathered, Zhang Yuanjian has publicly insulted Master several times and declared that his sect stands in opposition to Jingting Mountain." Lu Zhou's expression remained indifferent. "There are many in this world who resent me. Why should I concern myself with each one?" Xiao Yuan continued. "When I investigated at Bamboo Mountain, the headquarters of the Righteous Sect, I fought fiercely with their second elder, Dudafeng, and won. Unfortunately, I failed to kill him. Once I recover fully, I plan to visit the Righteous Sect at night and assassinate Zhang Yuanjian to avenge Master." Ming Shirin was startled. Third senior brother is risking his life. Lu Zhou naturally understood the danger. On the surface, Old Three appeared honest, but he was bold and meticulous, with sharp judgment. Zhang Yuanjian had entered the nascent divinity tribulation realm 100 years ago, while Old Three remained in the divine court realm, one major realm behind. Attempting assassination would be tantamount to courting death. Xiao Yuan, confused, asked, "Then why would senior brothers say such a thing?" Ming Shirin replied quietly, "It is to show loyalty after Zhao Yu's betrayal. Third senior brother is expressing his faithfulness. Master, am I right? In fact, I am far more honest than him," Ming Shirin added, clearly pleased with himself. Hearing this, Lu Zhou felt somewhat helpless. It seemed Duan Muxing's understanding of him still reflected Jitian Dao's former style. If Jitian Dao were still alive, he would undoubtedly send Duan Muxing to infiltrate the Righteous Sect, despite the enormous risk. Yet, even if Lu Zhou permitted such a mission now, he would still place the disciples' safety first. Continuing to feign injury would only widen the rift between master and disciple, creating a vicious cycle. After a moment of thought, he spoke slowly. "Old Fourth, I originally intended to punish you all by assigning you to repair the barrier at Jingting Mountain. That formation can block experts of the nascent divinity tribulation realm. However, since Old 3 has a task, I want you to assist him. Once this matter is settled, return to the mountain and focus on cultivation. I will reward you with a heaven-grade treasure." Ming Shirin, who had been composed until now, immediately became ecstatic at this promise. He dropped to his knees and responded eagerly, "This disciple obeys." A heaven-grade treasure was no trivial matter. Even remaining on the mountain for 5 or 10 years would be worth it. Countless cultivators struggled their entire lives without obtaining one. Eldest senior brother Yu Zhenghai possessed the Jasper Saber and had used it to slaughter tens of thousands, earning his fearsome reputation. Against someone with a heaven-grade treasure, cultivators of the same level were little more than prey. It was often said that the difference between possessing such a treasure and lacking one was like that between grandfather and grandson. The former could easily dominate the latter. For years, Master had been extremely cautious about distributing heaven-grade treasures, so to promise one at this moment was astonishing. How could he not be excited? Regaining his composure, Ming Shirin asked how to deal with the matter of the youngest junior sister's clansman. Lu Zhou replied that it was not simple and that he needed to discuss it further with Xiao Yuaner before deciding. "Understood. I will support third senior brother. After completing the mission, I will return immediately to repair the barrier," Ming Shirin said. With that, he leaped away like lightning and vanished. After his departure, Xiao Yuaner asked curiously, "Master, isn't it just Zhou Jifeng? You seem to value him greatly." Lu Zhou felt inwardly resigned, as he did not think much of Zhou Jifeng at all, but he explained, "He once attempted to assassinate me. The reason I spared him was so he could witness the true face of the Heavenly Sword Sect. Even if he does not join Jingting Mountain, he will inevitably come into conflict with them sooner or later." Xiao Yuaner was slightly surprised. In the past, Master would have resolved such matters with a single strike of his sword. She had not expected him to employ strategy instead. After a brief pause, she asked again about her family situation. Lu Zhou said, "This matter is more complicated than it appears. The reason I did not assign it to your fourth senior brother is because he would handle it too crudely. Ming Shirin's methods closely resemble Jitian Dao's. He would kill first to save the hostage and consider the matter closed. As for the mastermind behind the scenes, we have yet to investigate thoroughly." Hearing this, Xiao Yuaner immediately knelt and pleaded for him to devise a solution. Lu Zhou had already made his decision. He calmly said, "In that case, I will personally go to Anyang." Xiao Yuaner could hardly believe her ears. In her memory, Master had not left Jingting Mountain for a very long time. Though no one spoke of it openly, they all suspected it was due to his declining health. She never expected him to personally intervene in her family's matter. "This must remain confidential," Lu Zhou added. "Leave a letter for your senior brothers. If anything arises, I will send word." Xiao Yuaner quickly prepared the letter while Lu Zhou adjusted his appearance, making subtle changes to disguise himself. As long as he was not recognized, it would save considerable trouble. Once ready, he summoned Whitesard. Above Jingting Mountain, auspicious lights shimmered across the sky, and soon a mystical beast slowly revealed itself. It resembled a flying deer, covered in pure white fur, with wings along its abdomen, and radiant multicolored light surrounding its body. Whitesard circled once before descending gracefully before them. Lu Zhou extended his hand calmly, motioning for Xiao Yuaner to mount first. Startled, she hesitated, claiming she did not dare ride Master's mount. "It is fine. Sit in front of me," Lu Zhou reassured her. At Whitesard's speed, they would reach Anyang in less than an hour. Flying consumed a cultivator's energy, and while divine abilities like Soul Chase could surpass a mount's speed, they drained even more energy and were unsuitable for long travel. In the cultivation world, capturing and taming a legendary mount like Whitesard was already extraordinary, let alone riding one. There was even a saying, if you were not born with a legendary mount, you would never have one in your lifetime. "Hold tight," Lu Zhou reminded. Whitesard let out a clear cry and transformed into a streak of light, heading toward Anyang. Xiao Yuaner sat gleefully on its back, filled with excitement, but Lu Zhou felt some discomfort. His cultivation was still too low, and the high speed strained his body. Soon the city of Anyang came into view. Lu Zhou had Whitesard land outside the city so he could steady himself. Meanwhile, Xiao Yuaner continued stroking the beast. praising its beauty with shining eyes. To avoid attention, Lu Zhou quickly dismissed Whitesard. They changed into ordinary clothes at a farmhouse outside the city and concealed their auras before entering Anyang on foot. "Master, you look like an old farmer now," Xiao Yuan teased. Lu Zhou waved his hand dismissively. "From now on, address me as grandfather." She tried the new title awkwardly at first, but after repeating grandpa a few times, she grew surprisingly accustomed to it. Inside the bustling city, Xiao Yuan's eyes sparkled as she grabbed 2 candied haws from a vendor. "Grandpa, this is so fun," she laughed. "Hey, you haven't paid," the vendor shouted, chasing after her. Annoyed, she snapped, "Get lost. It's your fortune that I'm eating your sweets. Keep talking and you'll regret it." Lu Zhou sighed helplessly. "Yuaner, pay him." At once, she shrank back, pouting as if deeply wronged. "Grandpa, he was so fierce. I listened to you and didn't even hit him," she muttered. Lu Zhou shook his head. "If everyone seized goods as you did, who would dare sell them?" Realizing her mistake, she handed the vendor a generous pile of gold and silver. The man's anger vanished instantly as he departed happily. Not far away, a crowd had gathered around something. Curious, Xiao Yuan attempted to squeeze through but found herself blocked by tall, sturdy men. After several failed attempts, frustration overtook her. "Move aside!" she shouted, stomping her foot. With a loud crack, the stone-paved ground fractured beneath her. The surrounding crowd recoiled in fear and quickly parted. Several disciples responsible for recruiting at the market center noticed the commotion. One of them nodded approvingly and said, "Not bad, not bad. Young lady, would you like to join our sect? You have a good foundation." Kick just now had the strength of someone at the 5th level of the quenched body realm. Siyuaner heard this and immediately felt disdain. "When did I say I want to join your stinking Azure Dragon Association?" A man who felt insulted stood up and shouted angrily, "You are bold, little girl. How dare you insult the Azure Dragon Association?" In response, Siyuaner stomped and shattered the man's table. "What Azure Dragon Association? What are you doing here? Speak now, my grandpa is waiting." The man, now alert, tightened his grip on the weapon behind him. "How could you not know about the Azure Dragon Association?" Seeing him preparing to act, Lu Zhou walked over and snorted coldly. His voice, infused with a trace of inner power, clearly reached the man's ears. Sensing that inner power, the man mistakenly assumed Lu Zhou was only at the 7th or 8th level of the quenched body realm. Lu Zhou had no time to waste on them. He leaned in and whispered to Siyuaner, "You can use the Azure Dragon Association in Anyang to help investigate the matter concerning the SI family." Her eyes lit up at once and she turned to the group. "All of you, come here." The man's face darkened. This wild girl probably doesn't know that the backer of the Azure Dragon Association in Anyang is the Netherworld sect, right? "What? The Netherworld sect?" Siyuaner was visibly stunned. "Isn't the leader of the Netherworld sect eldest senior brother?" Lu Zhou frowned and looked at the man again. "You're saying the backer of the Azure Dragon Association is the Netherworld sect?" "That's right, old man. I think you're not bad. Join the Azure Dragon Association as a lackey. You'll have good food and drink, and we'll protect you. Your granddaughter has more potential than you, and she's pretty too. I can speak to the sect master and let you both join together," the man said smugly. Siyuaner secretly glanced at Lu Zhou, thinking he remained silent because he was angry. Her master had told her not to kill indiscriminately, but he had not forbidden beating people. With that thought, her eyes brightened. She lifted her leg and kicked the man's chin fiercely. With a loud bang, his body was sent flying. She followed immediately, kicking his chest and punching his face, unleashing a rapid flurry of blows as the sounds of impact echoed through the market. Before long, the man collapsed to the ground, limp and barely conscious. Still angry, Siyuaner lifted his swollen pig-like face with the tip of her foot and stared at him coldly. Insolent. "Do you think you can address my master like that?" The onlookers retreated in fear. The remaining 2 members of the Azure Dragon Association finally reacted, drawing their weapons and shouting, "Is there no law? No order? How dare you assault someone in broad daylight?" Siyuaner kicked the fallen man aside and declared, "Not only can I beat people, I can kill them too." She chuckled, revealing her small tiger teeth, as strands of chi unconsciously emanated from her body. The 2 men were horrified. This was no quenched body realm. At the very least, she was a mystic enlightenment realm expert. Trembling, they immediately knelt and begged for mercy. Lu Zhou stepped forward and praised Si Yuan for her actions. She brightened and said, "They insulted you. I couldn't hold back. I had to teach them a lesson." Lu Zhou then looked at the kneeling men and asked, "Where is the main branch of the Azure Dragon Association?" One of them hurriedly replied, "In Anyang, 3 miles north of the ancient river." Lu Zhou's gaze turned cold. "I am new to Anyang and unfamiliar with the area. Go back and inform your leader that I will personally visit tomorrow." The 2 men quickly agreed and fled with their injured companion. Si Yuaner's eyes shone. "Master's plan is brilliant. Once we know their headquarters, we can deal with them properly." Lu Zhou stroked his beard helplessly. "What a mess. I intend to use them to investigate the matter concerning the SI family." Then he looked at Si Yuaner and asked, "After being away for so many years, do you still remember where your home is?" Yuaner replied after hearing the question, "I only remember that there are 2 stone lions at the entrance of our house. My father loved martial arts, and my mother enjoyed embroidery." As she spoke, a trace of melancholy appeared on her face. Lu Zhou understood that Si Yuaner had lived on the mountains since childhood and had never returned home, so it was natural that her memories were vague. Afterward, the 2 asked around the city and quickly located the SI family residence. Anyang was not large, and the SI family had once been prominent, so it was not difficult to gather information. When they arrived at the entrance, Yuaner became excited and began dancing around, even trying to lift the stone lions to play with them. Lu Zhou quickly stopped her. "Since you've returned home, don't be so mischievous." They pushed open the gate and saw a steward-like man sweeping the courtyard. Seeing 2 villagers in disguise, the steward looked puzzled and asked who they were. Yuaner eagerly stepped forward. "Where are my father and mother?" The steward was startled. "Who is this little girl? Your parents aren't here." Hearing this, Yuaner's expression darkened, and she slapped the steward aside. "Move. Don't block my grandfather." Holding on to Lu Zhou, she headed toward the inner courtyard. The place looked desolate and cold. "You, come here." "Where are my father and mother?" she demanded angrily. The steward, confused, failed to recognize her. After all, she had left the SI family at a very young age. Lu Zhou glanced at him and asked his name. Rubbing his burning cheek, the steward stammered that he was Wang Fugui, the SI family's steward, and added that the SI family's manager had also been taken hostage. Lu Zhou then pointed to Yuaner and said she was Si Yuaner of the SI family. Wang Fugui swallowed, looked at her carefully, and immediately dropped to his knees, crying, "Miss, you finally returned. I am Wang Fugui." Yuaner scratched her head. Though she had left young, she vaguely remembered him. After Wang Fugui's explanation, they learned that most members of the SI family had been abducted by a group called the Lakeside Gang. No one knew the gang's background or who was behind it, and their whereabouts were impossible to trace. Because the SI family had suffered repeated abductions in a short time, the remaining servants were too frightened to stay. They fled with whatever valuables they could carry. Only Wang Fugui had remained. After listening, Lu Zhou calmly sipped his tea and asked, "Why didn't you report this to the authorities?" Wang Fugui replied that they had reported it, but the officials found no clues. On the day of the abduction, everyone had been taken except a few servants who were out on errands. He had been in the outhouse and thus narrowly escaped. Curious, Yuaner asked why he had not run away as well. Wang Fugui straightened and said firmly, "I was born a servant of the SI family, and even in death I will be a ghost of the SI family." Lu Zhou smiled faintly. "You are indeed loyal. However, keep Yuaner's return a secret. As for the SI family's abduction, I will investigate it myself." With that, he dismissed Wang Fugui and arranged for Yuaner to visit the Azure Dragon Association early the next morning to investigate the so-called Lakeside Gang. After settling everything, Lu Zhou lay down to rest. At that moment, the system's voice rang in his ear. Complete the task to support Yuanmuxing. Reward, 200 merit points. He frowned at the task panel. Before leaving Jinting Mountain, he had assigned Ming Xian and Duan Muxing to repair the barrier together. However, the panel now only displayed Ming Xian. There was only one possibility. Duan Muxing was injured. Meanwhile, back at Jinting Mountain, Ming Xian felt puzzled after reading the letter left by Yuaner. He had not expected that Master would actually leave the mountain. He wondered what the old man was thinking. Duan Musheng, standing beside him, coughed lightly and speculated. Perhaps he stayed on the mountain too long and wants to go out for a change, but doesn't want others to recognize him. Ming Xian stood up and nodded. You may be right. Master has been acting differently lately. I can't figure him out. In the past, he relied solely on absolute strength and disdained schemes, believing all plans were meaningless in the face of true power. Duan Musheng sighed. Maybe so. But repairing the barrier will fall to you, junior brother. My injury may take 3 to 5 months to recover. Just as he finished speaking, a towel suddenly smacked Duan Musheng in the face. You're being too optimistic. At least pretend properly. Don't take advantage of the situation. We both grew up being beaten. Haven't we endured worse injuries than this? I'll give you 10 days. If it takes longer than that, I'm quitting. When Master returns, he can deal with you himself. Embarrassed, Duan Musheng sat up and said, Junior brother, you're truly clever. 7 days should be enough. You can leave now. I need to focus on healing. It's not convenient for 2 grown men to stay in the same room. Hearing this, Ming Xian widened his eyes and shot him a look of disgust. Ha! He snorted, before turning and walking out. Early the next morning, while he was pondering matters in the courtyard, a flying letter approached. He stepped lightly and caught it. After reading it, his expression changed in shock. How did Master know that 3rd senior brother was injured? He immediately scanned the surroundings, his aura surging outward as he sensed everything within several hundred meters. Aside from a few ordinary birds and animals, he detected nothing unusual. The absence of abnormalities only made him more uneasy, as if Master were secretly observing him from somewhere nearby. Thinking quickly, he dropped to his knees and shouted, Master, your disciple did not mean any disrespect. Please rest assured, I will repair the barrier diligently and guard Jinting Mountain well. After saying this, he finally exhaled in relief and comforted himself. As long as he followed Master's arrangements, everything would be fine. At the same time, Lu Zhou was unaware of Ming Xian's anxious display. He was studying the human scroll among the 3 volumes of the heavenly writing. As his cultivation advanced, several new pages of text had appeared, leaving him speechless. The purpose of cultivating the heavenly writing was to improve his cultivation quickly, yet now he needed to raise his cultivation first just to unlock more of its contents. It felt somewhat counterproductive. Although he had entered the sense-condensing realm, he still felt like an ant before divine court realm experts. After reading a few pages, he lost interest. The thought of using the lottery crossed his mind, but he immediately dismissed it. That thing was addictive. He would consider it once he accumulated more merit points. Meanwhile, at the Azure Dragon Association stronghold, the leader Lu Jingfeng stood above with a frown. You're saying the one who injured you was a young girl who looked 15 or 16, accompanied by an old man. What gives them the audacity to provoke the Azure Dragon Association? The 2 subordinates below answered miserably. We don't know. We were recruiting disciples on the streets of Anyang when that wild girl suddenly attacked and severely injured Elder Jian. The old man even said he would visit personally. With disdain, Lu Jingfeng ordered, Take 20 brothers today and find those who injured Elder Jian. Just as he finished giving instructions, another subordinate rushed in. Leader, there's a woman outside requesting an audience. Refuse her, Lu Jingfeng said irritably, still in a foul mood. The subordinate hesitated. She said her patience is limited, and while she can still obey her grandfather's order, she asks you to comply. Before he could finish, several loud bangs echoed, accompanied by cries of pain as a few figures were thrown inside. Lu Jingfeng's irritation turned into fury, and he immediately led his men out. At the entrance, Siyuaner was dragging an unconscious subordinate and said angrily, I already told you, my patience is limited. It's already merciful that I didn't beat all of you. How dare you make me wait outside? One of the men behind Lu Jingfeng recognized her and whispered nervously, Leader, she's the one who injured Elder Jian. Lu Jingfeng's brows knitted together as he realized the young woman before him was no ordinary opponent. Siyuaner placed her hands on her waist and looked at them disdainfully. So you're the so-called leader of the Azure Dragon Association? Don't think that being in the Brahma Sea Realm makes you invincible. Without any intention of being modest, she only wanted to complete her master's task quickly. I'm asking you, Are you the leader of these little minions? I'm Lu Jingfeng, leader of the Azure Dragon Association's Anyang branch. My words carry weight here, he replied coldly. Si Yuan nodded slightly. Good. That makes things simple. I have something for you to do. Lu Jingfeng's expression immediately darkened. When the branch leader had ever suffered such humiliation, he roared, Enough! Take her down. And Lu Jingfeng's command was immediately understood by the archers, who released their arrows in a whoosh of wind. Yet Xiao Yaner remained standing with her hands behind her back, completely unmoved, and coldly declared, Disobedient leader, at which moment the arrows suddenly halted in mid-air as several majestic bursts of aura erupted from her body, and the next instant, a thunderous explosion rang out, while that overwhelming aura crashed forward like an avalanche, reducing the surrounding buildings to rubble and leaving only Lu Jingfeng barely resisting the force as his eyes widened in disbelief, realizing that she might actually be a Brahma Sea Realm expert who had opened all 8 meridians, since the Brahma Sea Realm required opening the Conception and Governor meridians to truly enter the realm and reaching its highest level after opening the remaining 6. And only when all 8 meridians were opened could a cultivator channel their energy to attack, making such an individual virtually invincible below the Divine Court realm, though no branch of the Azure Dragon Association could possibly station a Divine Court expert. So even as fellow Brahma Sea Realm cultivators, Lu Jingfeng ultimately could not withstand the pressure, and was sent flying to crash into a distant wall before hurriedly pleading for mercy as he regained his senses, while Xiao Yuaner floated toward him as if nothing had happened, and clenched her fists. I didn't expect you to be a Brahma Sea Realm expert with all 8 meridians open. Please forgive my lack of recognition. I beg you to spare me. Let's talk this through. And seeing the fear in his eyes, she stated her purpose. I have something to ask of you. Help me investigate the Lakeside Gang, the ones behind the CI family kidnapping, to which Lu Jingfeng looked bewildered and replied, I have never heard of that name. But she insisted. They orchestrated the kidnapping of the CI family. Give me 3 days and find their whereabouts. And upon hearing the connection to that prominent household, he broke into a cold sweat, saying, A gang bold enough to abduct the CI family is beyond the Azure Dragon Association's control. Though Xiao Yuaner merely stared at him and clenched her fists, prompting him to tremble and quickly respond, My lady, I will discover the Lakeside Gang's location within 3 days, after which she nodded in satisfaction and approached one of his subordinates, asking, Was it you who shot arrows at me earlier? And the terrified man shook, his head violently in denial. Yet she simply said, It was you, and lightly stepped on the ground beside him, leaving a clear footprint in the solid floor with a loud crack before mocking, coward, and departing the association's gates with an imposing demeanor while warning, Be obedient. If you do not do as I say, I will wipe out the entire Azure Dragon Association, leaving the area in stunned silence as the subordinate nearly fainted on the spot, and Lu Jingfeng, after recovering from his shock, wondered with deep suspicion how such a young and powerful cultivator had appeared in Anyang, since if any other faction had caused trouble they might have been killed, yet this girl merely injured them and assigned a task, making the situation extremely strange, and he questioned whether the city even possessed such a force. Lu Zhou was the notorious first ancestor of the demonic sect, and now the family members of his disciple had been kidnapped twice in succession. With his fiery temper, how could he possibly endure such humiliation? He immediately sent his youngest disciple to deal with the local gang, the Azure Dragon Association. After Si Yuaner left, Lu Zhou began living a leisurely old man's life. From his memories, Ji Tiandao had first met Yuaner when he arrived in Anyang years ago. At that time, he wanted to take her as a disciple, but her parents firmly opposed it. Later, however, they somehow sent Si Yuaner up the mountain themselves. Thinking of this, Lu Zhou asked Wang Fugi, What enemies has the SI family made over the years? Wang Fugi respectfully replied that there had been none, not even in the past 5 years. After hearing this, Lu Zhou pondered for a moment. Are you referring to the Morong family? Wang Fugi nodded and explained that 5 years ago the Morong family and the SI family had been like water and fire. At that time, both families owned properties and businesses across the 3 southern provinces of Great Yan. The SI family master had devoted himself entirely to business and became extremely wealthy. Later, due to fierce competition, the 2 families gradually became mortal enemies. Although cultivators were not supposed to interfere in worldly affairs, some people were blinded by greed, and because of this, The SI family master and his wife had often become targets of assassination. Hearing this, Lu Zhou asked whether the recent kidnapping might also have been the Morong family's doing. Wang Fugui hesitated before replying that he did not dare make such a judgment. Lu Zhou casually grabbed a handful of feed and scattered it across the ground. Anyone capable of kidnapping an entire family must have cultivation no lower than the full meridian stage of the Brahma Sea Realm. Are there cultivators in the Morong family? Wang Fugi replied that on the surface there were none, though he could not speak for what might exist behind the scenes. While they were speaking, a figure suddenly flashed through the air, and Si Waner landed in the courtyard with a loud bang. Seeing this, Lu Zhou frowned and scolded. Why climb the roof instead of using the front door? Si Waner stuck out her tongue and replied that using the front door required knocking and opening it, while climbing the roof was more convenient. Don't do that again, Lu Zhou said, before asking how the matter had gone. Hearing this, Yuaner blinked her large eyes and replied that they had been very obedient and promised to find the lakeside gang. When Lu Zhou asked if she had fought them, she giggled and said no, claiming that the leader had been very friendly, called her lady, and promised to locate the gang within 3 days. She even insisted she was telling the truth. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed, and Si Yuaner went to the Azure Dragon Association again. Wang Fugi, who was sweeping the courtyard, looked worried and asked whether the young miss would be in danger going alone. Lu Zhou replied indifferently that he should worry more about the safety of the Azure Dragon Association's members. Just as he finished speaking, a series of system prompts sounded in his ears, killing a villain. Merit points +10. After a while, Lu Zhou frowned and sighed, muttering that Yuaner's temper would never calm down. With the rewards from disciplining disciples and completing tasks, he now had over 1,000 merit points. Si Yuaner had clearly killed at least 50 villains. From Wang Fugi's earlier account, he also learned that the Azure Dragon Association had committed countless crimes in Anyang, causing the people great suffering. Everyone was angry, yet none dared speak because the Netherworld sect backed them, making them a major scourge in the city. Killing them was nothing to pity. With this thought, Lu Zhou instructed Wang Fugi to visit the Morong family and inquire about any recent activity. He handed him a token, explaining that no one would dare stop him with it. Wang Fugi accepted it and hurried away. Although the system's temporary items had disappeared, the spoils taken from the world still remained, and the token of the Imperial Army was one such item. Time soon reached the afternoon, and Si Yuaner returned in a hurry, landing with another loud bang that startled Lu Zhou from his nap. She ran playfully to his side, but Lu Zhou frowned and ordered, "Kneel. Master, I know I was wrong." "I shouldn't have killed people," she said obediently as she knelt, thinking he was angry about that. Lu Zhou shook his head and replied, "I'm not blaming you for that. I told you this is your home now, and you should use the front door. Did my words just pass through your ears like the wind?" Yuaner quickly admitted her mistake, explaining that she had been in a hurry to return and had forgotten, promising not to repeat it. Lu Zhou ignored the excuse and continued sternly, saying that although her nature was good, she could not live without rules. Since her parents were not here, it was his responsibility as her master to teach her properly. Hearing this, Si Yuaner could only lie down obediently on the stone bench. "Smack!" Lu Zhou suddenly slapped her, but because of her protective aura, it did not hurt at all. Seeing the playful look on her face, Lu Zhou snorted coldly. "Disperse your protective aura." Si Yuaner wanted to beg for mercy, but realizing that her master was truly angry, she had no choice but to obey. Once the aura disappeared, she became no different from an ordinary person. "It's fine to be carefree by nature," Lu Zhou said sternly, "but you cannot live without rules." On Jingting Mountain it had not mattered much, but in the city of Anyang her high-profile behavior could easily expose her identity. She needed to be punished, so she would remember the lesson. As Lu Zhou continued to strike her, courtyard echoed with cries. "Smack! Stand up!" he ordered. Seeing her pitiful appearance, Lu Zhou suddenly fell into thought. In his memory, Jitian Dao had never hit Yuaner. From the first disciple to the 8th, every one of them had once been beaten black and blue by Jitian Dao, some even suffering severe injuries. Yet Yuaner had been different. She had left her parents when she was very young. The care of her senior brothers and sisters could never replace that of her parents, so she could only rely on her master. Now the master she respected most had struck her. How could she not feel wronged? "Master, it really hurts," Si Yuaner muttered softly, wiping away tears. "Pain is good," Lu Zhou replied. "Forget the big principles I told you before, just remember what I say now." He then handed her a piece of candy. "Here, eat this. It won't hurt anymore." "I know," Yuaner said as she took the candy and stuffed it into her mouth. After calming down, she explained what had happened at the Azure Dragon Association. They had claimed there was no such thing as the Lakeside Gang. insisting it was a group of cultivators in disguise. They lied and even called in helpers from Yi province to kill her. Enraged, she fought back and beat them. No, she corrected herself, she killed them. They had even invited powerful experts, and if she had not fought back, she might never have seen her master again. Hearing this, Lu Zhou gave her an annoyed look. Who in this world could bully you without reaching the divine court realm? Then he suddenly calculated the time and sensed something was wrong. Wang Fugai should have returned by now, yet there was no sign of him. Thinking of this, he spoke calmly. Wang Fugai hasn't come back. Come with me for a walk. Si Yoner immediately agreed and obediently followed him out. At that same moment, inside Yanyu Palace, the fifth disciple Zhao Yu paced back and forth irritably. The sixth disciple Yi Tianjin, seeing this, tried to comfort her. There's no point regretting it now. We can only continue to the end. Zhao Yu frowned and replied, Senior Sister Tianjin, if we had done this a month ago, I wouldn't worry. That old man has always been hot-tempered and selfish in his actions. But recently, his style has changed. Yi Tianjin became curious. How has it changed? Zhao Yu hesitated. I can't say exactly, but it feels as though his methods have softened. His temper is no longer as explosive. Maybe I'm overthinking things. She then asked, We kidnapped the SI family members. Will he really take the bait? Yi Tianjin chuckled lightly. Given that old man's personality, it's unlikely. But our junior sister is pure-hearted and has only been away from home for 5 years. If she hears about this, she will definitely return to Anyang. Once she does, capturing her will be enough. When the old man leaves Jingting Mountain and loses the protection of our senior brothers and the barrier, we'll have countless ways to exhaust his trump cards. Hearing this, Zhao Yu's eyes lit up. How will you exhaust his trump cards? Yi Tianjin paused before answering slowly. There are many famous righteous families in the world, and many have suffered at his hands. If I spread news of his whereabouts, what do you think they will do? Especially since the heavenly sword sex Luo Changfeng died by that old man's hand. Zhao Yu shivered slightly. The last time she had witnessed the scene of 10 great experts and tens of thousands of cultivators fleeing in panic, only their master could create such a spectacle in the entire world. Yi Tianjin had clearly thought of this as well. I have already informed the 10 great families about the old man's secret medicine. The 9 great experts are not fools. Once they understand the key to the situation, they will return sooner or later. At that moment, a subordinate hurriedly entered and reported, Palace Master, we have received news from Anyang. The Azure Dragon Association has been wiped out, and the token of the Imperial Army has appeared in the city. We do not know who did it, but judging from the traces left behind at the scene, the attacker should be a cultivator who has opened all 8 meridians of the Brahma Sea Realm. Hearing this, Zhao Yu began analyzing the situation. Could it be Si Yuaner's doing? Our junior sister is a divine court realm expert. Given her temperament, it's entirely possible she wiped out the Azure Dragon Association, but she wouldn't hide her cultivation level. What if the old man left Jingting Mountain with her? Yi Tianjin dismissed the concern with a wave of her hand, saying it was unlikely that the old man would leave Jingting Mountain with her, though to be safe she would immediately send someone to investigate the CI family. She ordered her subordinates to take the portrait and lurk near the CI residence in the city of Anyan, reporting back at once if they discovered any traces of the 2 people. As for the token of the Imperial Army, she said it was not important since there were only 2 possible explanations. Either someone had forged it, or the Emperor himself was present but disguised as a commoner. However, because Great Yan had been plagued by wars in recent years, she believed the Emperor would not do something so risky. A confident smile appeared on Yi Tianjin's lips as she reassured her senior sister not to worry, claiming that everything was under her control. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou and Xia Yuanor were on their way to the Morong residence. Lu Zhou glanced at her and warned that she had been acting too high profile and might have already attracted unwanted attention, telling her that from now on she must do whatever he instructed. Xia Yuanor immediately nodded and replied obediently, Yes, master. After a moment, Lu Zhou asked her what she would do if the mastermind behind the kidnapping of the CI family turned out to be her own senior brothers and sisters. Hearing this, Xia Yuanor hesitated and found it hard to believe, insisting that they had always treated her well and would never kidnap her parents. Lu Zhou sighed inwardly, realizing she was still far too naive. Before long, the 2 arrived at the Morong residence. Xia Yuanor offered to knock on the door, but Lu Zhou calmly told her there was no need and simply ordered her to kick it open. At that moment, the guards inside the courtyard were conducting their usual training when a loud bang suddenly echoed as the door was violently kicked open. An old man and a young girl stepped into the courtyard, and it took the guards a moment to react before shouting angrily about the audacity of kicking open the Morong residence gate and ordering everyone to seize them. Hearing this, Lu Zhou merely waved his arm lightly and said slowly, "Fight. I like this." C.I. Yuanor, who had recently been beaten by her master and had been looking for a chance to vent her frustration, was delighted by the opportunity. She dashed into the crowd like lightning, her kicks sending guards flying in all directions, and in only a few moments the courtyard was filled with screams of pain. When she returned to her master's side, she complained with slight disappointment that the guards were not very durable. Lu Zhou replied indifferently that a divine court realm expert bullying a group of quenched body realm guards was nothing worth boasting about. The noise outside quickly attracted the attention of those inside the residence, and when the Murong family's patriarch, Murong Hai, saw the chaotic scene, his eyes turned cold as he cautiously asked who they were. Lu Zhou glanced at him and simply asked if Wang Fugi was there. Upon hearing the name, Murong Hai sneered with disdain and said that Wang Fugi had already been arrested for forging a military token and handed over to the authorities. Lu Zhou frowned slightly before turning to see if Yuanor and telling her to make him speak properly. She happily agreed and stepped forward to face the man. Several people nearby immediately grabbed their weapons, eager to fight, mocking her as a wild girl who had appeared out of nowhere. However, the moment the words left their mouths, their pupils widened in disbelief as C.E. Yuanor released powerful gales from within her body, forcing several of them to collapse to the ground under the overwhelming pressure like a raging hurricane. Someone shouted in shock that she was actually a Brahma Sea Realm 8 Meridians expert, and realizing the danger, Murong Hai began sweating heavily in fear. C.E. Yuanor remarked that he seemed more resistant to beatings and prepared to strike again, but Murong Hai quickly raised his hands and begged for mercy, insisting that Wang Fugi was fine and that he would bring him out immediately. Soon, a battered and bruised Wang Fugi was dragged before them. When C.I. Yuanor saw his condition, she became instantly displeased, clenching her small fist and coldly asking who had beaten him. Murong Hai hurriedly explained that it was not him and that he had no grudge against them, so there was no reason for him to do such a thing. C.I. Yuanor did not seem convinced and raised her fist again, but at that moment, Lu Zhou spoke calmly and asked Murong Hai whether he knew anything about the kidnapping of the C.E. family, warning him not to rush his answer because, if he thought the man was lying, C.E. Yuanor would break his legs. Hearing that she would be allowed to beat someone, C.E. Yuanor became extremely excited and readily agreed. Frightened, Murong Hai quickly told them everything he knew, explaining that although the Murong family had a long-standing feud with the Sai family, they were not capable of kidnapping more than 100 members of the Ci family overnight. Such a feat required a powerful force backed by strong cultivators. He even advised the old man not to provoke those people. Hearing this, Lu Zhou's eyes brightened slightly, and he asked if Murong Hai knew who they were. Murong Hai admitted that he was not entirely sure but said he knew those cultivators were connected to Jingting Mountain, then asked whether the old man had heard of it. Lu Zhou shook his head and said he did not know much about it, telling him to explain. Murong Hai looked at him in surprise and said that he had never even heard of Jingting Mountain, and judging from the old man's aura and bearing, Murong Hai concluded that he was probably a reclusive cultivator, the kind of practitioner who lived isolated from the world. After finishing his speculation, he continued explaining that Jingting Mountain was home to a demonic ancestor who commanded 9 disciples, each of whom was a notorious demon known throughout the cultivation world. According to him, the group of cultivators who had kidnapped the Sai family was very likely connected to some of those demons from Jingting Mountain. These people killed without hesitation and were extremely ruthless and evil. Seeing that the old man appeared kind and treated others well, Murong Hai sincerely advised him not to provoke such terrifying figures. Hearing this description, C.E. Yuanor could not help but laugh, which made Lu Zhou feel somewhat helpless as he asked what was so funny about such a serious matter before telling Murong Hai to ignore her and continue speaking. Murong Hai paused briefly before explaining that the so-called Lakeside Gang was actually a non-existent organization. 2 days before the kidnapping of the Ci family, the group had secretly scouted the city of Anyan and used more than 30 people during their preparations. Lu Zhou found this information somewhat puzzling and asked how Murong Hai knew about it, reasoning that if the other party had created a fake sect, their goal should have been to remain unknown. Yet they had allowed the Murong family to discover their activities so easily, which seemed contradictory. Hearing this question, Murong Hai showed an embarrassed expression and admitted that, among the hostages who had been taken away were also members of the Murong family. He then begged the old man to show mercy, promising that from now on the Murong family would no longer oppose the Ci family. After hearing this, Lu Zhou slowly turned around and asked one final question, whether Murong Hai had any way to track the hostages. Murong Hai hesitated, and stammered uncertainly until he felt the cold gaze of the old man staring directly at him, forcing him to answer honestly that he did have a way. Lu Zhou then told him to return and take Wang Fugi along, and also reminded him not to forget the token of the Imperial Army before leaving with Xie Yuanor. Xie Yuanor took the token from Muronghai's hand and examined it curiously, commenting on how beautiful the dragon pattern was. Lu Zhou explained that the dragon pattern was the exclusive design used on the Imperial Army's token and the only symbol that proved its authenticity, telling her to put it away and not to act too ostentatiously. When Muronghai heard that the token was actually real, he was so frightened that he nearly lost control of himself. Lu Zhou then instructed Xie Yuanor that the next morning she would take Muronghai with her to rescue her clansmen, and she quickly agreed to her master's order. Time passed quickly, and soon it was evening. After returning to the CI mansion and finding himself with nothing else to do, Lu Zhou decided to use the system to draw rewards. This time he spent 50 merit points and received 3 reversal cards. Although he was happy with the result, he still felt somewhat cheated by the system because the subsequent draws all ended with "thank you for your patronage," which made him feel frustrated again. He muttered that the system was addictive and that he needed to restrain himself from drawing further, since if he drew 10 times without receiving a single reversal card, it would be a complete loss. He then used all 3 cards, which increased his remaining lifespan to 5,507 days. The recovery of his lifespan also seemed to improve his eyesight, but when he rubbed his eyes, everything quickly returned to normal. This confused Lu Zhou, making him wonder if it was related to the extraordinary power from the Heaven Writings 3 volumes. If that were the case, he needed to figure out how to make use of it. The system had previously hinted that the cultivation method of Heaven Writings 3 volumes was different from his previous cultivation path, meaning that all his earlier experiences and insights were now useless, and he would have to explore this method entirely on his own. With this thought in mind, he opened the Heaven Writing interface and continued studying it. The next morning, several people gathered in the courtyard. Lu Zhou calmly ordered Muronghai to lead the way while standing with his hands behind his back. Muronghai clasped his hands together and began making a series of complicated hand gestures, as if performing a secret tracking technique. After finishing the process and obtaining the result, he finally said that the hostages were about 10 miles north of their current location. Hearing this, Lu Zhou was slightly surprised that the distance was so short. Kidnapping the CI family and hiding them only 10 miles away suggested that those cultivators were not afraid of anyone attempting a rescue, which made it possible that a trap had been prepared there. He briefly considered whether they should proceed cautiously, but after a moment of thought he shook his head. Xie Yuanor noticed his expression and curiously asked what he was thinking about, but Lu Zhou simply replied that it was nothing and told them to go. Since Wang Fugi had no cultivation, he was told to remain behind at the Sai mansion while the rest of them quickly headed toward their destination. 10 miles north of Anyan was the territory of Blue Sun Mountain. After arriving nearby, Muronghai confirmed that it should be the correct place because the tracking mark could not be wrong, and the cultivators pretending to be the lakeside gang should all be stationed there. Hearing this, Lu Zhou spoke calmly and ordered Xie Yuanor to go and save the people. She immediately agreed with a sly smile and dashed toward Blue Sun Mountain at great speed, leaving a series of footprints behind her. Watching this scene, Muronghai was extremely shocked, realizing that she was a Brahma Sea Realm 8 Meridians expert, and thinking that such an achievement at such a young age was incredibly rare in the world. However, at that moment, several dark shadows suddenly rushed out from the surrounding woods. A voice coldly declared that they had been waiting for them for a long time, and as the words fell, dozens of cultivators appeared in front of Xie Yuanor, while Muronghai, who accompanied them, was so scared that he was close to wetting himself, saying that these were all Brahma Sea Realm 8 Meridian powerhouses. Yet Lu Zhou only nodded and replied that he knew, which made Muronghai feel like crying because he was merely a weak cultivator who had opened 5 apertures of the mystic enlightening realm, and in front of the Brahma Sea Realm he had no standing at all. So he nervously suggested that they should run away. But Lu Zhou ignored him completely and focused on the scene where Xie Yuanor pointed at the opponents and began counting them with interest, prompting the leader to frown and angrily demand their names since they never killed nameless people, declaring that there were 12 Brahma Sea Realm cultivators before laughing, while Xie Yuanor finished counting with a small smile, and the leader, seeing their silence, snorted coldly and explained that they had been paid to kill anyone who came to rescue the hostages and solve problems, adding that although it was rare for someone so young to reach such a powerful cultivation level, it was unfortunate she had involved herself with the Sii family. Then the group rushed forward and surrounded her, demanding to know who had hired them. But Lu Zhou calmly asked who they were, causing the leader to sneer because he realized their realms were low and communication was useless. So Lu Zhou sighed and told Si Yuanor that in this world truth and rules could only be proven through strength, to which she smiled knowingly as her energy erupted, and she leapt into the air with a light tap of her toes, startling the 12 cultivators, who sensed the overwhelming aura and shouted that something was wrong and ordered her death. But as they charged with weapons, the nearest cultivator was struck by a kick, and Si Yuanor moved like lightning, leaving after images as each blow claimed another life, the sound of bodies thudding to the ground echoing repeatedly, until all of them were defeated within moments, and the remaining leader trembled in fear before asking if she needed help, though she coldly refused, and allowed him to drop his own energy and fall to the ground in surrender so he could at least preserve his life, and Lu Zhou praised her for the victory as she ran toward him excitedly. After which he turned to the surviving captive and calmly asked who the mastermind was, but the leader hurriedly raised his head and replied that he did not know. Lu Zhou then asked where the Sai family hostages were, and the man answered that they had already been taken away. When asked by whom, he again claimed ignorance, and even when questioned about whether he had seen the person's appearance, he shook his head and said he had not. Hearing this, Lu Zhou simply turned around and said coldly, "Kill him," adding that this person could no longer be interrogated. Terrified, the leader immediately panicked and shouted that he would talk, begging not to be killed. He quickly revealed that the entire Sii family was on Blue Sun Mountain, except for their family head who had been taken away by his employer, though he insisted he truly did not know the employer's identity. Si Yuanor approached with a grin and praised Lu Zhou, saying her grandfather was amazing for making him confess with just a little intimidation. But Lu Zhou replied indifferently that he had not scared him at all, and that this place was clearly a trap, with the mastermind deliberately leaving behind information, meaning even if this man did not speak, someone else would, so sparing his life had no meaning. Hearing this, the leader's face turned ashen. Meanwhile, at Yanyu Palace, several female cultivators flew swiftly across the mountains and arrived to report that an old man and a young girl were approaching the Sai family residence. Upon hearing the news, Yi Tianjin and Zhao Yu came out together and asked if their identities had been confirmed. The report stated that they looked similar to the portraits. Yi Tianjin began analyzing the situation, mentioning that the third senior brother had been injured and that righteous sects had already sent experts to Jingting Mountain, while after the death of Luo Changfeng, the sect leader of the Heavenly Sword sect, no successor had taken his place, and Luo Xingkong was seeking revenge for his son. She concluded that the fourth senior brother alone could not stop a nascent divinity tribulation expert. Zhao Yu immediately understood that this was a good opportunity to exhaust Ji Tiandao's trump cards, though she still worried about the possibility that the two might not be imposters. Yi Tianjin chuckled and said that if that were the case, it would only mean they had fallen perfectly into their trap. At that moment, a flying letter arrived with urgent news. All the cultivators of the Lakeside gang on Blue Sun Mountain had been killed, and the entire Sai family, except their family head, had escaped. Hearing this, Yi Tianjin's eyes lit up as she concluded that the one capable of wiping them out was most likely their little junior sister. She immediately ordered a message to be sent to the evil king, telling him that the plan remained unchanged, and to prepare for action. Zhao Yu could not help but laugh lightly at the thought of the somewhat dull eighth disciple becoming the evil king, noting that although he was slightly stronger than Sai Yuanor, it would not take long for her to surpass him, since she had only been in the sect for 5 years. Yi Tianjin sighed, saying it was not that the eighth disciple was too weak, but that their master was simply too strong. At the same time, completely unaware of these developments, Lu Zhou suddenly sneezed. The rescued members of the Sai family all knelt down and expressed their gratitude, and after receiving thanks from more than 100 people, Lu Zhou's merit points increased significantly, making him feel quite satisfied. Si Yuanor excitedly reunited with her mother, though they did not have much time together since there were still others to save. After settling the Sai family members properly, they set out again. Following the earlier battle, Moronghai had developed a deep admiration for Si Yuanor's strength and praised her as possibly the youngest 8 Meridians Brahmasi cultivator he had ever seen, even claiming she would reach the divine court realm within 3 years. Hearing this flattery, Yuanor responded with disdain, reminding him that he had been scared out of his wits earlier. Embarrassed, Moronghai tried to explain himself, but when he saw her glaring at him, he quickly fell silent as she warned him that he was lucky to still be useful. Otherwise, she would have kicked him to death already. Frightened, Moronghai hurriedly walked closer to Lu Zhou, thinking to himself that dealing with such a temperamental girl was far from easy, while the old man was much more calm and approachable. He then asked Lu Zhou why he had sent the Psi AI family members back to their residence, wondering if it was not a waste of effort in case they were kidnapped again. Lu Zhou replied calmly that there was no need to worry because the cultivator's true target was not the Psi AI family. Moronghai nodded, realizing that made sense since the kidnappers had not asked for money and had not killed any hostages, meaning their goal must have been something else. Just as he was pondering the reason, a messenger bird suddenly descended from the sky, carrying a letter from the fourth senior brother. Yuanor leapt into the air and caught the letter, but this time Lu Zhou did not let her read it and instead gestured for her to hand it over. After reading it, his brow furrowed slightly as he instructed her to send a reply to Old Fourth, telling him to wait for his return. Yuanor immediately agreed, while Moronghai, watching from the side, began to speculate that this grandfather and granddaughter pair must belong to some powerful sect, since in the vast world of Great Yan, it was not unusual for hidden experts to exist. Not long after, the group arrived at an open area surrounded by mountains on all sides. Lu Zhou carefully observed the surroundings before speaking loudly, telling whoever was hiding to come out. In the next instant, a sinister laugh echoed through the forest, followed by a terrifying aura surging into the sky. A man in a black robe appeared, his eyes fierce as he held Yuanor's father in his grasp. Seeing this, Moronghai panicked and shouted that it might be a demon from Jingting Mountain and tried to flee, but a hoarse voice rang out coldly, saying it was already too late to run, and a powerful force immediately suppressed him, preventing any movement. Lu Zhou stared coldly at the black-robed man and assessed him silently, realizing from the fluctuations of his aura that he was stronger than a Brahma Sea Realm 8 Meridian cultivator and should be a Divine Court Realm expert, though not strong enough to force him to use his trump card. The man in black spoke arrogantly, noting that although they had managed to escape the trap at Blue Sun Mountain, their strength was still far from sufficient, mocking their group as nothing more than a 2-aperture Mystic Enlightenment cultivator, an 8th-level body tempering cultivator, and an 8 Meridian Brahma Sea cultivator, which in his eyes was a fair exchange. Yuanor's eyes lit up with excitement, eager to fight. But just as she took a step forward, Lu Zhou stopped her and calmly told the man to release the hostage and leave, promising to spare his life. Hearing this, the black-robed man pointed at Lu Zhou in disbelief and questioned whether he knew who he was speaking to. Lu Zhou replied indifferently by naming the 3 yin styles of the Taoist societies, which startled the man slightly as his intuition told him this old man was not as simple as he appeared and must be hiding his true strength. He then demanded to know Lu Zhou's identity, but Lu Zhou instead calmly exposed his cultivation method, explaining that he practiced a reverse breathing technique that absorbed the essence of heaven and earth through the Laogong acupoints into the Dantian, a method that was easy to learn but came with a fatal flaw. His body would be filled with cold energy, causing him extreme pain for at least 10 days every month. After a brief pause, Lu Zhou added coldly that he only had 3 months left to live. The man in black was completely shocked, as such flaws were the deepest secrets of any cultivator, and yet this old man had revealed it so easily. For over 20 years he had cultivated the 3 yin styles and become a powerful divine court expert, but the cost had always been severe. How could this old man know? He once again demanded Lu Zhou's identity, but Lu Zhou only smiled faintly and continued, saying that when the man betrayed the Taoist societies, he had only learned the 3 yin styles and not the 6 yin techniques, explaining that extreme cold must be balanced with extreme yang, and that it was already a miracle he had survived this long. Hearing the term 6 yin techniques, the man became confused, but then suddenly burst into laughter, accusing Lu Zhou of speaking nonsense to deceive him. Immediately afterward, he unleashed a surge of powerful qi and attacked Lu Zhou, but Yuanor blocked the strike with a single palm, declaring that anyone who wanted to harm her grandfather would have to get past her first. She released her own sharp aura and forced the man back, shocking him as he realized she was also a Divine Court Realm expert at such a young age. Yuanor stretched her body, clearly excited for the fight, and turned to Lu Zhou to ask for permission. Lu Zhou simply told her to do as she wished. With her master's approval, she beckoned the black-robed man forward, saying it had been a long time since she had met such a strong opponent and hoping he could last a little longer. Watching this unbelievable scene unfold, Moronghai stood there completely dumbfounded. Moronghai, who had been accompanying them, was so frightened that he was on the verge of wetting himself, finding it utterly bizarre that a young girl like Yuanor would dare to provoke such a terrifying opponent. Yet as her words fell, she had already rushed forward like the wind and launched a kick straight toward the black-robed man's head. The man reacted quickly and raised his arm to block. But the moment their attacks collided, he was forced backward by the overwhelming force of her strike. And before he could stabilize himself, Siyuanor closed the distance again and continued her assault, forcing him into a fierce battle as the sounds of their clashes echoed throughout the surroundings, eventually moving their fight to a more open area, while Moronghai stood frozen in shock, prompting Lu Zhou to comment indifferently that this was simply her temperament, though Moronghai could only smile bitterly at such an explanation, thinking that this was no mere temperament, but more like an unleashed demon. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou walked over to check on Siyuanor's father and discovered that he had only fainted and was not injured, which relieved him. And when Moronghai, still astonished, asked why someone with such a powerful granddaughter would pretend to be weak, Lu Zhou calmly replied that people's hearts were treacherous, and one must always remain cautious, causing Moronghai to bow respectfully and praise his deep understanding of the world, admitting that he had underestimated him all along before, hesitantly asking whether Lu Zhou was also deliberately concealing his cultivation, since in his view it would be impossible for someone so young and powerful to be restrained without an equally strong master. Lu Zhou simply glanced at him without confirming or denying, which was enough for Moronghai to conclude that he was indeed a hidden expert, though Lu Zhou casually waved his hand and downplayed it, saying he was not truly an expert, which only made Moronghai more convinced of his humility and magnanimity, especially when comparing him to Siyuanor's fiery and impulsive personality. And he could not help but remark that while the girl possessed extraordinary talent and limitless potential, it was a pity she did not understand how to conduct herself properly in society. Hearing this, Lu Zhou glanced toward the distant battlefield and admitted that he had indeed been thinking about how to teach her proper principles, though he knew that with her temperament, it would not be easy to change her in a short time. At that moment, the battle was nearing its conclusion, and Siyuanor excitedly urged her opponent to get back up and continue fighting, praising one of his moves, while the black-robed man lay on the ground coughing and waving his hands in surrender, declaring that he would not fight anymore, which caused Lu Zhou to reveal a faint smile as Moronghai assumed the matter was finally over and congratulated him on successfully rescuing the Siai family, believing the journey had come to an end. But Lu Zhou, with a slight frown, walked toward the fallen man and stated that the matter was far from over and had in fact only just begun, then addressed him by name, calling him Pan Zhang, which startled the man into asking how he knew his identity. Lu Zhou ignored the question and calmly said that Pan Zhang could have lived for another 3 months, but if he wished to die sooner, he could grant that wish, causing Pan Zhang to immediately rise to his feet in alarm and watch him cautiously, insisting that although he had underestimated the girl's strength, it was still far from enough to kill him, to which Lu Zhou replied that the true power of the 3 yin styles could only be fully realized with the 6 yang technique, and that Pan Zhang had failed to grasp its essence because he only knew half the method. Siyuanor, hearing this, spoke with slight disdain, questioning what was so impressive about the 6 yang technique and boasting that her grandfather knew countless cultivation methods, leaving Pan Zhang momentarily speechless. But before he could respond, the sound of flying swords suddenly filled the air as a large group of cultivators appeared in the sky with an imposing presence, at the center of which was a red flying chariot from which a clear, bell-like laugh echoed, greeting Siyuanor as little junior sister after a long time apart. Upon seeing this, Siyuanor grew nervous and instinctively hid behind Lu Zhou, who calmly reassured her and told her there was no need to be afraid and to focus on protecting her father, which she agreed to, regaining her confidence as she reminded herself that her master was still there, while Moronghai, witnessing everything, widened his eyes in disbelief, unable to accept what he was seeing and thinking it must all be an illusion, because even an expert who had opened all 8 meridians of the Brahma Sea realm was already considered extremely powerful. Yet what stood before him now was far beyond that. When a cultivator stepped into this realm, he could already float in the air, and once all 8 meridians were opened, he could freely soar through the sky. So how could Moronghai not be shocked when he saw so many experts flying overhead? Moreover, among them were not only Brahma Sea realm cultivators, but also several Divine Court realm experts, and even a flying chariot was present. The flying chariot itself symbolized supreme status, something only the leader of a powerful force could possess. And even in the past, when the 10 great experts besieged Jingting Mountain, Only those top experts had such chariots, which made him wonder just who the person riding the red flying chariot could be. As he was lost in thought, another voice rang out from the chariot, teasing that the little junior sister had grown more and more beautiful, and upon hearing this familiar voice, Yahello was so frightened that she hurriedly retreated behind her master once again, while Panjong seemed to realize something and nervously swallowed, unable to imagine who could make such a fierce and powerful girl show fear, though, in his mind, only one person who owned that red flying chariot fit the image. Yahello glared angrily at the figure above and retorted that she was not his junior sister and called him a traitor, which only made Yi Tiangxin laugh softly, as she replied that her junior sister was still as innocent and adorable as ever. And at that moment, one of the surrounding cultivators stepped forward, saluted, and questioned Palace Master Yi about the information she had given them, saying that she had claimed the old villain survived the previous battle using a secret drug and would appear here. Yet what stood before them now seemed to be only a lesser figure, which confused them. Hearing this, Lu Zhou inwardly scoffed, thinking that he only appeared slightly younger, with darker hair and tighter skin, but his facial features had not changed much, so how could they fail to recognize him so easily, as Yi Tiangxin lightly stepped down from the chariot and slowly descended to the ground, at which point Lu Zhou also recognized her as Yi Tiangxin, a nascent divinity tribulation realm expert, now the renowned master of the derived Moon Palace and his former sixth disciple, a place rumored to consist solely of talented female cultivators who all harbored hatred toward unfaithful men, though the reason for this remained unknown. Noticing that she had brought male cultivators instead of her own disciples, Lu Zhou concluded that she was being cautious and clever, and as he observed her calm yet elegant demeanor, he was reminded of a lotus growing from the mud yet remaining unstained. But at the same time, he noted that the eldest, second, fifth, and seventh disciples had not appeared. And with only half an hour remaining on his peak form ability, he knew he had to make the most of it to deal with these traitorous disciples. After landing, Yi Tiangxin looked directly at Lu Zhou and declared that he had deceived them, causing the surrounding righteous cultivators to fall silent in shock as they questioned whether this was truly the infamous demonic patriarch they had come to confront. While Morong He, standing nearby, was even more stunned, unable to reconcile the kind-looking old man before him with a terrifying figure of legend. At that moment, Lu Zhou calmly stood with his hands behind his back and said that since she still addressed him as master, he would give her one more chance to return to Jingting Court Mountain and remain one of his 9 disciples. But Yi Tiangxin merely laughed lightly and replied that calling him master was only out of respect, and that if he wished to return, he would first have to ask the others present, which immediately stirred the crowd into an uproar as the surrounding cultivators shouted angrily, accusing him of relying on a secret drug to win the previous battle, and declaring that such methods always came with side effects, vowing that this time he would not escape and urging him to surrender. However, Lu Zhou simply smiled, paying no attention to their threats, and instead turned his gaze back to Yi Tiangxin and calmly asked how she had been so certain he would appear here, to which she clapped her hands and had a maid present a portrait of his former aged appearance, laughing as she remarked how hard it was to believe that the once dominant villainous patriarch would disguise himself. Before teasingly asking if he would believe her if she said it was merely a guess, Lu Zhou then scanned the surroundings but did not see any of the other traitorous disciples, which made him sigh inwardly in disappointment, realizing that catching only one of them while using his peak-level power did not seem worthwhile. Yet faced with the current situation, he understood that there was no room left for retreat or hesitation. Lu Zhou stroked his beard lightly and spoke in a calm, steady tone, addressing Yi Tianjin, as he reminded her that he had once taught her the blue waves technique and given her the amorous hoop so she could protect herself in the dangerous cultivation world, not so she could abandon the sect and betray him. Upon hearing this, Yi Tiangxin could not help but laugh, her voice filled with mockery as she replied that he could no longer treat her as he once did, that he was old now and no longer the same Yi Tiandao who could shake the world, and that this very place had been carefully prepared as his grave, causing the surrounding cultivators to grow alert as they began to sense their surroundings and realized that the area was far more dangerous than it appeared on the surface. Yahello, unable to tolerate such disrespect, angrily retorted that she dared to scold her own master and warned her to be careful of heavenly punishment. But Lu Zhou raised his hand slightly to signal her to remain calm before continuing to question Yi Tiangxin, asking who had revealed his whereabouts, whether it was Old Seventh old fifth, or that useless old eighth. Yet Yi Tianjin slowly shook her head and replied that she had no need for them to tell her, openly admitting that the kidnapping of the SIAI family had been her plan all along, with the sole purpose of luring both him and their little junior sister out of Jingtingcourt Mountain. Hearing this, Pan Zhang grew uneasy and spoke up, reminding her that she was the one who had assigned him the task in questioning. What would have happened if the old villain had not shown up, only to be coldly cut off by Yi Tianxin, who told him he was asking too many questions and should simply do his job and claim his reward, which made the atmosphere even more tense. Having obtained the answer he sought, Lu Zhou no longer wasted words and calmly declared that he had already killed countless people in the past and did not mind adding a few more, prompting the surrounding cultivators to immediately draw their weapons and prepare for battle as if facing a great enemy, while Yi Tianxin, however, remained completely fearless and even slightly amused as she questioned why he was still pretending, then revealed what she believed to be the truth, explaining that the secret drug known as Primal Fiend could temporarily boost a cultivator's strength, but came with the severe side effect of having their cultivation for 10 days and could not be used again. Upon hearing this, Lu Zhou recalled that this drug had once been created by the Medicine King, but was later rejected and banned by the orthodox sects due to its cruel and dangerous nature, eventually disappearing from the world. And although he said nothing, Yi Tianxin took his silence as confirmation and grew even more confident in her assumption, a faint smile forming on her lips as she added, "There's one more piece of bad news I need to tell you. I've set up an array here, one that has greatly weakened energy. Even if you have the secret drug and take it in desperation, it will be useless." Well, that's all I wanted to say. Master, this will be the last time I call you Master. After you're dead, I'll have someone properly bury you and take care of Jingtingcourt Mountain. Oh, right. The experts of the righteous sect should have already arrived at Jingtingcourt Mountain. Third senior brother is wounded, so I believe fourth senior brother has likely surrendered by now. Yi Tianxin spoke as she retreated back into the crowd. Xia Yuanor, upon hearing about the array, quickly asked what they should do. Lu Zhou calmly assured her that there was no need to fear. Wang Fugi suddenly rushed out from the woods. After glancing at the fallen CI family's master, he knelt beside Lu Zhou and pleaded, "Old mister, please save my master." As soon as he said that, he suddenly pulled out a short sword from his chest. While no one was paying attention, he leaped forward and aimed directly at Lu Zhou's back. This unexpected scene left everyone stunned on the spot. Xia Yuanor's face filled with worry as she urgently warned him. Murong Hai's mouth hung open in shock. Since Wang Fugi was actually a Divine Court realm expert, Yi Tianxin's excitement was beyond words. The distance was too close, leaving almost no chance to dodge the attack. Even a nascent Divinity Tribulation realm cultivator would not be able to withstand this unguarded strike without injury. Wang Fugi, brimming with confidence, continued to exert force. However, in the next second he was dumbfounded because the short sword could not penetrate any further. What's happening? This is an Earth-grade treasure, coated with a potent poison. With my full strength attack as a Divine Court realm cultivator, why can't I feel it piercing his body? Panic filled Wang Fugi as he raised his head, only to see the short sword seemingly blocked by an invisible force outside Lu Zhou's body. At that moment, Lu Zhou's face was full of disdain. "Why would I need to take a drug to kill all of you?" he said, suddenly unleashing his powerful aura, forming rings of energy that sent Wang Fugi flying away. The ripple-like energy continued to spread, reaching into the sky. Seeing this scene, the righteous cultivators were shocked. Not good. The old villain did this on purpose. It's not the old villain who fell into a trap, but us. Yi Tianjin, you are truly scheming. Ah. All Brahma Sea Realm cultivators were blown away, unable to resist. Yi Tianjin's eyes widened, her body trembling. She couldn't understand why the array had failed or why the old man could still take the secret drug. What went wrong? At that moment, Lu Zhou took a deep breath. The feeling of being at his peak was exhilarating. It was like a long-stored flood breaking through a dam, instantly restoring his full cultivation and power. After savoring it for a moment, he turned his icy gaze toward Yi Tianjin. Yi Tianjin, you had a Divine Court assassin disguise himself as a steward in the CI family. Did you think I wouldn't know? For many years, she had lost her sense of fear, but now that feeling of dread slowly resurfaced. Her carefully planned scheme was completely forgotten. Lu Zhou simply raised his arm slightly, and the severely injured Wang Fuge was pulled uncontrollably toward him. Everyone in the world knows about the Imperial tokens, so how could Murong Hai fail to recognize it? You shouldn't have interfered. At that moment, Wang Fuge trembled in fear. When he first saw Lu Zhou and Xia Yuan'er, he wasn't certain whether they were the evildoers from Jinting Mountain. It was only after obtaining the token that he confirmed everything. He had thought about assassinating them at night. But he always felt the old man was not truly an evildoer from Jinting Mountain, and he was also afraid of ruining Yi Tianjin's plan, so he never acted in the end. "You can't kill me," Wang Fuge stuttered, trying to reveal the forces backing him to save his life. Every Divine Court Realm expert has some form of support, but did it matter? Was there any force in the world that could frighten the great evildoer? No. Lu Zhou had no interest in listening to his nonsense. He closed his fingers and directly ended Wang Fugi's life, gaining 200 merit points for killing a Divine Court Realm evildoer. He can't last much longer. "Don't be afraid," Yi Tiongxin said, though her heart was filled with fear. After saying this, she leaped up and jumped onto her flying chariot, disappearing into the sky without looking back. Pan Zhong, realizing what had happened, was terrified. He quickly begged for mercy. "Senior, I was used by others. I never intended to oppose you. Please spare my life." He understood that it was nearly impossible to escape the attention of such a powerful expert, and begging for mercy was his only chance at survival. After hearing this, Lu Zhou slowly scanned the crowd. Noticing there were about 15 Divine Court Realm experts and more than 100 Brahma Sea Realm cultivators, he paused for a moment before speaking. "I'll give you a chance. If you leave without a single Brahma Sea Realm cultivator remaining, I'll grant you the 6 Yang technique. You can choose life or death." With that, he snapped his fingers, and a blessed light descended from the sky. The divine beast White Surge stepped on the void and slowly landed in front of Lu Zhou. "Take your father back to Bluesun Mountain. Wait for my return." "Yes, master," Xie Yuan replied before leaving in front of everyone. Pan Zhong, seeing this, was shocked. The legendary mount, countless treasures, weapons, and techniques were all in the hands of the old evildoer, just as the rumors said. After thinking it through, he decisively knelt on the ground and bowed. "I'm willing to serve senior." "Very well," Lu Zhou said, before lightly tapping his toes and flying into the air. His powerful aura spread in all directions, forcing the Divine Court Realm experts to summon their Dharma bodies to resist the pressure, while the weaker cultivators fled like frightened dogs. Hunter Tribulation's insight. As Lu Zhou's words fell, a towering golden phantom appeared instantly like a mountain, inspiring awe. "So powerful. Senior's cultivation is so high. Why did you deceive me? Thinking back on the past, everyone mocked me for being a demon. Then I'll be a demon. Go to hell." A cold light flashed in Pan Zhong's eyes as he immediately attacked the nearest cultivator. Screams filled the air as the Brahma Sea Realm cultivators were slaughtered. The Divine Court Realm experts flying low had no time to care for their companions, their only thought being to escape. Imperfect heaven's favor, an observant cultivator recognized Lu Zhou's move and recalled the scene when they besieged Jinting Mountain. He quickly shouted for everyone to scatter. "It's a straight-cutting technique. Don't gather together." But in the next second, as Lu Zhou swung his sword, dark clouds gathered in the sky, churning and swirling. The sword beams turned black, and the dark clouds rolled across the heavens, the sword devil's destiny. As Lu Zhou finished gathering his energy, the sound of blades slicing through the air echoed across the sky. The black sword attacks fell like heavy rain, piercing through countless cultivators without resistance, or even screams. Only then did they realize it was the Giwan sword technique, the famous ultimate skill of Yu Shangrong, one of the villains of Jinting Court Mountain. Unfortunately, it was already too late. These black sword feathers were not only incredibly fast, but their power was also terrifying to the extreme. Even a nascent Divinity Tribulation Realm expert would struggle to survive such a move, let alone them. Indeed, in the face of absolute strength, any conspiracy or trick becomes pale and powerless. Killed 15 Divine Court Realm targets, gained 3,000 merit points. After dealing with them, Lu Zhou looked into the distance. Divine technique, blink. With a swoosh, he disappeared from the place along with his massive Dharma body. Another great move? Murong Hai and Pan Zhong were stunned beyond belief. At this moment, the sixth disciple Yi Tiangxin was controlling the flying chariot, speeding through the sky. Although she couldn't understand why this old man was even stronger than during his peak period, under the full speed of the flying chariot, aside from great divine abilities, it was difficult for anyone to catch up. Thinking of this, she felt more at ease. He didn't chase me. It seems the old man had already unleashed his 100 tribulations inside Avatar just now. There will be plenty of time in the future. We will meet again. A faint smile appeared on Yi Tianjin's lips, but at that moment, a sudden humming sound began to echo in her ears. Who is it? She looked around in confusion, only to see a towering Dharma body walking side by side with her. Lu Zhou looked at her coldly. "You are an evil disciple." Yi Tianjin's eyes widened in shock. "Master." Then he slowly raised his arm, and the overwhelming pressure from his body erupted instantly. In an instant, a giant palm that covered the sky appeared. Seeing this, a trace of despair surfaced in Yi Tianjin's eyes. 100 tribulations inside Avatar, 100 feet tall and 20 feet wide with 8 leaves. No, it's 9 leaves. The 9th leaf has already bloomed, combined with the strongest move, the Fiend Monk's Hand Seal. How much strength does this old man still have left? Amorous Hoop. Yi Tianjin naturally would not sit still and wait for death, immediately using her strongest weapon to resist. Lu Zhou knew that her greatest reliance in reaching her current position was this heaven-grade weapon, the Amorous Hoop. However, since I can give you a weapon, I can also take it back. Return it to me. As his words fell, the giant palm slowly closed in on the Amorous Hoop. Seeing this scene, Yi Tianjin screamed desperately, "Stop!" The Amorous Hoop, as its name suggested, was a hoop but with sharp edges. When a cultivator filled it with energy, its power became even more terrifying. The amorous in its name did not signify love, but hatred. It meant that whatever it entangled with, it would never let go. We must take it back, she thought, because once the Amorous Hoop was lost, even if they escaped today, their strength would be greatly diminished. Acting on this, Yi Tianjin unleashed her ultimate move, the Blue Waves technique. With a loud cry, a wave of mighty muster energy erupted from thin air, rushing toward the fist suspended in midair. Unfortunately for her, she faced an opponent who knew this technique far better than she did. Blue Waves technique. Break, Lu Zhou said, as his body erupted with surging waves, rolling in the opposite direction. Compared to that, Yi Tianjin's Blue Waves technique was like a small puddle, insignificant. This old man really leaves no hope. Yi Tianjin had no choice but to defend herself with all her strength. In the next moment, the massive wave arrived like a domineering gale, hitting her forcefully, causing her to spit blood and stagger. She was then hurled across the sky like a shooting star. Lu Zhou glanced around, noticing no other evildoers nearby. Strange. According to previous expectations, Yi Tianjin alone wouldn't have dared to act. Seeing none, he did not linger and immediately used the divine power blink to chase after her. Before she even landed, he had already arrived below, then emotionlessly raised his arm. Muster energy burst forth mightily, and as his palm clenched, it instantly wrapped around Yi Tianjin's body. Her eyes widened with fear and shock as her breathing grew rapid. Disrespecting your master and ancestors. Defying me. I will take back everything I gave you, Lu Zhou said, as powerful muster energy concentrated at his fingertips. What are you doing, old man? Yi Tianjin trembled, her face pale. Realizing the danger, she tried to beg for mercy, but there was no room for negotiation. The muster energy struck her dantian precisely. Her dantian shattered, and her cultivation was lost. She had fallen from a high-ranking Yonyu Palace master to an ordinary person. Yi Tianjin was stunned. For a cultivator, nothing is more cruel than losing cultivation. She had once sought strength, willingly joined Jinting Mountain despite fear, endured countless hardships to reach her status, enjoying others' worship and countless auras. Now, all that vanished with her dantian's destruction. Ha! Kill me, old man, she said bitterly, her smile revealing a crazed expression. Incorrigible. Lu Zhou raised his hand and slapped her face. If you wish to kill or torment, do as you please. Ha! Poor third senior brother and fourth senior brother. They could have avoided this catastrophe. Why did it have to end this way? It's all your fault they died. From now on, there will be no Jinting Mountain in this world, Yi Tianjin said while laughing. Lu Zhou's expression remained unchanged. There are only 5 minutes left in the peak state. Even with the divine power blink, it might be too late. Fortunately, the system had not prompted that Old Four and the others had met misfortune. That meant they were not in danger for the moment. Moreover, Old Four was not foolish, he wouldn't fight to the death. With this in mind, Lu Zhou spoke. Fool! Yi Tianjin was stunned. The old devil had scolded people differently before. Fifth senior sister had said that master had changed, becoming more unpredictable and unfathomable. As long as I live, no one dares ride on Jinting Mountain's head, Lu Zhou said, then reached out and grabbed her. Thinking he intended to kill her, Yi Tianjin instinctively leaned back, but when she opened her eyes again, she was shocked. Lu Zhou held her shoulder, and they were swiftly flying through the air. Mountains passed beneath them constantly. No, this was the great divine ability, the soul chase. Why was it like this? Could the old man continuously use divine techniques without expending muster energy? How did he do it? Though cultivators could live longer than ordinary people, their cultivation bases would gradually decline in the decades or centuries before death. Starting from the body-tempering realm, the body was key to a cultivator's achievement. The mystic enlightening, sense-condensing, and Brahmasi realms all related to the body. As the body aged, the meridians, dantian and sea of qi lost vitality and potential for further expansion, leading to stagnation in cultivation. At that moment, combat experience, life experience, schemes, plots, and external forces are the keys for a cultivator to maintain his or her strength. But Jitian now is already so old. Why is he stronger than before? She asked unwillingly. Why? I admit I made a mistake, but catching me won't make you any better off. Lu Zhou frowned slightly at this and asked, Have you said enough? Then he opened part of the wind barrier in front of her. The next second, a strong wind roared like a knife, scraping past. After leaving this place, movement came from the dense jungle below. Eighth disciple Zhu Honggong sat paralyzed on the ground, breaking out in a cold sweat. In front of him stood a man in luxurious clothes. It was Jitian's seventh disciple, Siwuya, seventh senior brother. Luckily you came in time, he thought. Otherwise I would have become cannon fodder. Hearing this, Siwuya shook his head. Old Eight, you've always listened to my advice. Why collude with sixth senior sister now? Zhu Honggong replied with a trembling voice. Recently, I've been having nightmares of Master beating me up. I'm scared. How about I merge my Tiger Ridge gang with your Crouching Dragon Dark Net? Siwuya gently shook his feather fan, refusing. Forget it. You'd better keep your little gang. Why? You saw Master's avatar. Sixth senior sister will certainly betray me and I'll be finished, Zhu Hong said, panicked. Siwuya sighed helplessly. Yi Tiangxin thought she could uncover Master's trump cards with this group of divine court experts. It was a pipe dream. If Master had really weakened, she would have had her chance to attack. Seventh senior brother. Did you see how many moves Master used to kill 15 divine court cultivators? I don't know. Why? You are so clever. Stop it. You call yourself the evil king, yet you don't even know, do you? Well, I can scare others with my title, but I would never dare show off in front of my senior brothers. Siwuya glanced at him, somewhat regretting persuading him to leave Jingting Mountain. This fool was holding them back. He paused and reminded, from now on, you must sever ties with Yanyu Palace. Why? Xu Honggong asked, puzzled. Yi Tianxing led orthodox cultivators to attack Master, but she failed miserably and didn't bring anyone from her derived moon palace. What will those powers think? When Master pursued sixth senior sister, I briefly inspected the arrays she set up and found something wrong with the pattern. If I'm correct, senior sister Xiaoyu got cold feet. Xu Honggong was amazed. Xiaoyu's senior sister was involved too? Siwuya nodded. When she left Jingting Court Mountain, I learned she had gone to the derived moon palace. With sixth senior sister's temper, she must have drawn fifth senior sister to her side. Senior sister Zhao Yu is the best candidate to control the array. Also, Pan Zhong is a deserter from the Clarity sect, having learned only the 3 yin styles and suffering from bitter cold in his body. Sixth senior sister used him as bait to lure little junior sister, which would most likely displease the Clarity sect. What about Wang Fugu? Xu Honggong asked doubtfully. Xiaoyu gazed into the sky. Sixth senior sister's move was clever. Wang Fugu's real name is Xin Yuan. He is an expert under Lady Jade, consort of Great Yan's emperor. Lady Jade is the younger sister of the Princess of the West, whom the emperor married. The Princess of the West was killed by second senior brother, but everyone blamed Master. What Master did may anger Great Yan's emperor and even provoke a dispute between the 2 states, possibly causing war. The people will suffer because of a grudge between a few. Moreover, the 15 divine court cultivators came from 3 different southern sects of Great Yan. Years ago, those sects' earth grade and below weapons were all destroyed by Master's heaven grade weapon. They never got revenge, and now with their experts killed, a new enmity arises. What will the 3 sects do? Xu Hong's face showed disbelief. These were all parts of sixth senior sister's plan. Unfortunately, no matter how brilliant the scheme, it is meaningless against absolute power. Yi Tianjin could not have predicted that Master could keep using Soul Chase. This sequence of divine techniques subverted everyone's cognition, and Master's fighting style was so fast it left Yi Tianjin almost no chance to execute her plans. Xu Honggong suddenly felt terrified. No, I don't want to be the gang leader anymore. I want to return to my hometown. I'm not a strong player like the others, but I can always hide. Not long after, Lu Zhou arrived at Blue Sun Mountain. At that moment, Xia Yunor also happened to ride her white lizard over. Yunor, keep an eye on her, Lu Zhou said, then left Yi Tianjin and moved to the side. The effects of his peak experience card had worn off. Xia Yunor nodded and glanced at senior sister with a huff. Yi Tianjin seemed to sense something and chuckled. I never thought the mighty old villain would have such a humiliating moment. You know nothing. Master is getting old. Can he take a break? Xia Yunor retorted sharply, realizing her mistake, and quickly apologized to her master. Lu Zhou waved his hand, indicating it was no big deal. Although Yi Tianjin's cultivation had been crippled, her tone remained, dripping with sarcasm. If I were you, I would rush back to Jingting Court Mountain at once. Didn't you say no one would dare bully Jingting Court Mountain as long as you were alive? Ha ha ha. Unfortunately, Jingting Court Mountain is changing owners today. Please subscribe to help me provide you with more recaps.